Do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
Oh yeah. I don't know why I feel closed. Anyway, it was at night. You know what that means. It is time for the Mark Order Podcast here on Shining Wizard Network. We got a few things to discuss tonight. After a night of Dynamite and a Rampage and all the fun stuff that's gone on this past week in the world of AEW. So we're here tonight, AntMoney and Ryan Schlong. Howdy, Mark taping. It's the 2 live crew. That's 2 for me, 2 for you. Here on the pod with you tonight. What's going on, Schlong?
Not much. What's going on with you? You all right? You seem like you're distracted.
No, something's just something is slowing my computer down. I don't know what it is. Something's running. Like there's a video playing in the background somewhere, and it's just slowing everything down. There it goes. Okay, I think we're good. Honestly, no distractions. I've got no sports on tonight that I care about. I don't have a hockey game to watch until tomorrow. Baseball team played this afternoon. I don't care about the Knicks, so I don't know. No distractions, Schlong.
Well, there you go. You're ready to go. It just seemed like I said it. The intro seemed a little distracted. I was just making sure.
No, I feel fine. No distractions, honestly. Evening broadcast. Thanks for tuning in down under. I'm sure listen, Schlong, my whole knowledge of Australia is has just been refreshed since we watched Crocodile Dundee when we were on our trip to Baltimore and DC and Philly.
I know it's down under. That's what I know.
That's about it. Call that a knife? This is a knife.
Yeah, and they have big knives.
Huge. So what's been going on, Schlong? Anything interesting in your world?
Not much. Pretty boring, normal week. I kind of fell asleep right before Dynamite, so I was surprised I even saw the show.
Well, I'll say this. It was sort of like a mid episode for me. There was good stuff in it. Don't give me that look. There was definitely good stuff in it.
I had good matches.
Yeah, but you know what? Maybe it was this. Maybe you're going to turn me, Mr. Positivity Ryan Schlong. Maybe you're going to turn me tonight because maybe it was just the crowd seemed dead. Like the crowd definitely seemed dead tonight, right?
Yeah, they were a little off. I will say that. They were a little quiet.
It was Florida. Maybe they were just all on bath salts.
Yeah, they're just too worn down with wrestling. They get too much AEW.
I guess. I mean, this is Fort Lauderdale. So, I don't know. Well,
I enjoyed the show. I thought it was good.
We'll talk about it. We've definitely got stuff to talk about. We'll touch on Rampage. I'm sorry, Rompage. As that happened Saturday night. because of basketball. They're also getting displaced again this week with basketball again because fucking TNT. So that also doesn't give me a good feeling, Schlong, if all these Saturday night show rumors are true, because the rumors are it's Saturday night, it's 2 hours, and it's on TNT. So, like, what are they going to do when this shit happens again? They're going to displace it?
What displays which? The new show or Rampage?
The Saturday show.
Do they have a lot of basketball on Saturday? Like, does TNT have a lot of basketball on Saturday?
I don't know, but they got hockey, right? Don't they have hockey now? They do the March Madness tournament. You know, like, it just seems like there's still a bunch of stuff that could displace it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just seems like I'm trying to think if they have a lot of Saturday night sports on TNT because they might not. That might be a dead slot for them.
Well, when this aired on April 22nd, April 22nd, Rampage was on at 10 o'clock. That's a Saturday at 10 o'clock. And it was right after basketball. So that means basketball would have had to start at like 7:30 or 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it's playoffs though, it's like the Westminster Dog Show back in the day.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, I don't know. It just seems weird. Again, there's nothing confirmed, but it's like a lot of heavy reports about that show being Saturday nights on TNT at 8 o'clock, right? Or is it 6 o'clock? Who cares?
They
It's
haven't
still
given
just
the time yet.
it still just seems like a bad fucking idea to run anything on TNT right now, because it just, this time of year, it seems like you're just going to get displaced.
Yeah, but who cares? It's only this time of year.
I guess.
It's a couple weeks in this time of year because after the first round, you get fewer games as it is.
Yeah, I guess, but not during March Madness. March Madness, you always have a Saturday night until you get to like the Final Four. You know what I mean? Then it's
Yeah,
like
but then
Saturday
you
day.
compare your show with the Saturday with March Madness, and I'm sure AW and TNT would love that.
I guess, but then what happens to Rampage, right? What happens if Rampage gets displaced on Friday? You going to put it on at 4 in the afternoon on a Friday?
I'm sure they will. They don't really seem to care about Rampage all that much.
It's just extra. I don't know.
I don't think I'm not worried about it being on a Saturday. I'm really not.
We'll have to see. It would have been great if they put it on TBS at 8:05. Right? Was it 6:05? The old
It was 6:05.
sorry. 6:05.
But who knows? They might. That part of the rumor could be wrong.
Saturday at 6:05 on TBS, throwing it all the way back would be awesome.
I mean, that's the thing too. Is that we're talking? Oh, you're just preempted. They could also just move the show around. They could move it on TBS when they have something on TNT.
That also, it just makes me wonder why they don't do that now. You know what I mean? Like, when Rampage can't take place in its normal spot, why don't they just move it to TBS instead of showing reruns of goddamn, Young Sheldon and fucking Justice League or some Batman versus Superman bullshit. Maybe Shazam.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you that.
They love Shazam.
But it just seems, I don't know.
Well, we'll worry about it when eventually we get like real news on that show. But so Schlong, you said nothing new going on in your world, right?
Nope. How about for yourself?
I started coaching T-ball this week. That was like herding cats.
Oh, that had to be tons of fun.
It wasn't as bad as I thought it could be, but I definitely was not prepared. By the way, Schlong, because I know the people care, especially Asian Joe. Where's the Celsius? Right here, buddy. This is for my second half pickup, because I know we got stuff to discuss. I'm hydrating with some splendid Gatorade Zero right now. I do love Gatorade.
I'm hydrating with Propel, made by the same company.
Hey, look at that. Gatorade Zero and Propel. We love it here on the Mark Order podcast.
Corporate
You know,
synergy.
I mean, I love it because it's 5 calories. There's zero sugar, only 2 carbs, but you need some carbs. You know what I mean? To make sure you're getting everything in you need that you've expelled, because I've expelled so much sitting on the couch, watching television.
I have 0 calories, but I know I have fake sugar.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's fake sugar in this schlong.
Yes, this is 0 added sugars, but I know they have that fake sugar shit in here.
Yeah, I'm sure it does here too. But I love it. It tastes great. And we're getting that ad revenue. Tell them you heard about it here on the Mark Order podcast. But yes, my
Tell
Celsius.
Gatorade, you heard them about us.
That's
From
right.
us, I mean.
That's right. But I do have the Celsius here to go in the second half hour. Still doing the non-carbonated green peach mango green tea. And for those who don't remember, it's zero sugar, gluten-free. It's kosher, non-GMO, and it's vegan. It gives me the pickup I need. It's got essential energy, accelerates metabolism, helps burn body fat. It's great. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, anyway, Schlong, I did start coaching T-ball for kitty money this week. Yeah, I've upgraded him from baby money to kitty money. So kid money started T-ball. There are 7 players on the team, which I think I griped about here before because they told me how important it was to have me, volunteer to manage enough teams to go around, and there wouldn't be, or not everybody would get a chance to play all the time because there wouldn't be enough teams. So there's 7 on the team, and it was pretty good. I showed up at the field. All the kids were there, so that was great. All everybody wanted to do was swing bats, and I was like, please don't do that. I can't get sued. And then it was like we were away, Schlong, so we were batting first, and one of my assistants, who I didn't know previous to this, goes, "What's the order?" And I was like, shit, order? I didn't even think about a batting order. And then once we finished, it's T-ball, so everybody bats around. You know what I mean? You bat around, the last kid runs all the way around. It's a home run, whatever. Then we get in the field, and it's where's everybody playing? Fuck my life. I didn't think about that either. So of course we're just sticking kids wherever. And obviously, Schlong, there's no outfield because they're just not drilling the ball to the outfield. But I will say this. There was a young kid on the other team. I want to check his birth certificate because there was a kid who seemed really, really good for 5 and 6 years old. Like he almost hit it over the fence. And it's a T-ball field, so the fence isn't like 200 feet, right? But I mean, this kid was also before the game when they were sort of just like tossing around on the field and like, doing little things to warm the kids up. This kid was throwing lasers from third base to first base. I truly mean it, Schlong. Lasers.
Yeah, but he can't tell his left from his right, so I think it all evens out.
All right, I guess you're right. I think he's a ringer. I think Marky Mark Kayfabe.
Oh, because there's a lot of money to be made in T-ball.
There is a ton. There are 17 games, so
and you're betting on each one.
All of them. And if listen, you better be taking the over. You'd better be taking.
Well, I do prop bets. Like, will every player get to bat? And I always say yes.
That's a good bet to take. I'll say this though: as the game went on, we did like 3 innings. As the game went on, like kids were sort of getting more used to it. The other thing, Schlong, I'll tell you the most difficult part of the whole thing. After the game, we were in the field last, right? So after the game, I gathered the kids on the pitcher's mound. I was like, everybody did a great job. Our first game, we did great. You guys hit great. You guys played the field great. Now let's tell the other team that they did great and they had it was a good game. So let's line up and high five them. And so the lining up part was pretty difficult, which I found weird because they should all be in school, right? So you figure lining up is a regular thing. But we eventually get them in the line, and I grab the other coach and I'm like, hey, can we line them up and say good game? I figured that's something you should do, right? Like I remember doing that as far back as I
Yeah.
played games. And he seemed like, oh, okay, we're gonna do that. So he lined them up, and they had no concept. There was no concept. And I was like, here, just watch what I do. And I walked in front, and good game, high five, good game, high five. And that was more difficult than anything else we tried to accomplish on the field on either side. The post game, good game, high fives.
They just couldn't do it.
That was a difficult concept. They did not understand it. But all in all,
They too competitive. They don't want to acknowledge their opponents even exist.
That's it. That's it. But all in all, it was a good first game. Hopefully, we'll be better for game 2 coming up this Saturday. Schlong, there are 17 total games. I can't make half of them because of my work schedule.
Do they know that?
They do. I told them. I was like, you guys didn't tell me the schedule. I thought it was all Saturdays. I work in New York. So,
oh, they're not all Saturdays. They're also weeknights.
Dude, there are weeks where they play a Tuesday and a back-to-back Wednesday and then a Saturday. The last week of games, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Yeah.
A lot of games for T-ball.
Well, the other thing, if they get rained out, they don't reschedule. So I guess it's like,
Load
since they're not right. And it looks like this weekend will probably get washed out. They're calling for rain. So that was an interesting point in my week, Schlong. The T-ball experience. I didn't get hit with any bats or any balls, so that was good. I was afraid I was going to get hit with a bat.
If you showed up like giant black eye because a bat went across, I don't know if I could stop laughing.
Like Britt Baker, just with a giant black eye.
Kids are brutal, man. They just toss those bats around.
I was just nervous, man, because all they wanted to do was play with the bats. And I was like, oh, please no. Just put the bats down. You can't be touching the bats. So anyway, that's my interesting thing of the week. I got nothing else interesting going on. Just T-ball has started up, and I'm going to miss half the games. Too bad I can't be a player coach.
Then you'd really be a ringer.
My birth certificate says I'm 12.
You'd still be too old.
It's 6. Sorry, 6. Sorry.
There you go.
Anyway, so Schlong, why don't we talk a little bit about Rome Page? It was on Saturday night. And there were some good matches. We had John Moxley defeating Christopher Daniels. Basically, Daniels goes to sleep and Moxley wins. So Mox breaks the hold when the bell rings and he shakes Daniels' hand after the match in a show of respect. But it honestly he was disrespectful the whole time. So I don't get
Mox is just disrespectful anymore. I don't know what happened. His respect just went away.
I got an idea. Sorry, I was swallowing my delicious Gatorade Zero Fruit Punch. He never got to take his fishing trip.
You know what? I think the whole BCC needs to just go on a fishing trip. I think it would solve everything.
Now, do you think they should go away together, like a retreat? Or should they take separate vacations and get back together when they come back?
At first, I was going to say go away together like a retreat, but Danielson likely would not like fishing because of his whole vegan thing. So separate vacations. Each needs to just go find themselves.
What if Danielson went magnet fishing? Do you know about magnet fishing?
You just fish magnets out of the water?
Schlong, do you really not know about magnet fishing?
No.
Okay. It's actually, I guess it's sort of big on TikTok and some of the other social channels, but it is a thing. So these people get these really strong fucking magnets. They tie it to a rope and they throw it into the water. Like usually it's over a bridge or around like a populated area, right? Like a big sort of like running water, not just a pond. But they throw it in and then they drag it back like after they sort of feel it hit sort of bottom or hit something. You drag it back and you see if you pull anything magnetic out of the water. Some of the things like you see people, get like a steel-toed boot, or a couple times saw people pull knives out of the body of water. One time somebody hooked a shopping cart.
Danielson would dig that because then he's cleaning up the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Like Marky Mark says, catch and release. Danielson would be against catch and release. He'd find it cruel.
Yeah, no. No. I don't think he wants to inflict any pain on the poor,
Yeah.
poor
So he
fish.
would do magnet though. I'm with you there. That'd be like cleaning up the water. Right? Okay. So they go on a group magnet fishing trip.
Yeah, I think that's how you could do it. They're cleaning up the earth. They're not, hurting any fish that they can see. If that magnet hits a fish on the way down, it's not your fault. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, I'm with you. I like
they
it.
need to take a vacation. Take a vacation. Mark Sterling and Jade Cargill are interviewed backstage. They say Tay Valkyrie will be disqualified if she uses the Road to Valhalla against Cargill in her TBS title match. We sure will talk about that as we get into the second half of this show. And then the Hardys, Hook, and Isaiah Cassidy come out to the ring. Jeff says he's worked really hard to return to AEW, and the crowd sort of chants welcome back to him. And he thanks them, but says that the smallest thing for him to do, or the smartest thing, for him to do is retire from screwing up. Oh, Schlong, he swerved all of us. And he wants to spend the rest of his career in AEW. And Matt wants to talk about the firm deletion, but he's interrupted by Stoke on the video screen, and Stoke wants to know more details about the firm deletion match. And Matt says he'll let him know when the time is right. So the firm ambush the baby faces from behind. Ethan Page drops Cassidy with the Ego's Edge. Big Bill and Lee Moriarty drag him up the ramp, but the Hardys run them down with chairs. So Schlong, I guess we are going to get like some sort of deletion match. I wonder if they're going to do one of these pre-taped gimmicks, maybe around not all out. I'm sorry, Double or Nothing.
Yeah, I think you're gonna get probably Double or Nothing. I loved Stoke just look like on the big screen as they're getting beat down with that smile on his face, like he was overlooking it. Just such a
Yeah.
funny imagery.
Yeah, it was good. It was very good. Schlong, jumping back real quick, Marky Mark Kayfabe said, what's that thing where you go knee deep in a river and catch catfish with your bare hands? That's noodling. And he says he thinks Claudio would be awesome at that. Yes, I believe that is noodling.
It is, in fact, noodling.
There you go. See, I know things. I know some things. We recap the Jericho Outcast attack on Adam Cole. We'll talk about that later. Keith Lee and Dustin Rhodes cut a promo saying they're going to be back together in tag team action next Friday. So we'll see that this week. As we said, Rampage this week is going to be at 5:30 p.m. So once you clock out of work, if you work 9 to 5, you can pretty much turn on
Working
TNT.
9 to 5.
I knew it was coming.
You can't set me up for that and
I
not.
know. I'm not. I'm just saying. I knew it was coming. Let's see. I'm sorry. Julia Hart defeats Kira Hogan. And Anna Jay runs in after the match is over. She brawls with Hart in the middle of the ring. Security and referees break it up. Christopher Daniels gets interviewed backstage, and he says he's sick of losing. That's when the BCC roll in, but Daniels says the wrong thing, so Mox attacks him. Again, super disrespectful, and he rams his head against the lockers. Mox tells us the BCC aren't the ones who've changed. It's everyone else who's lost their minds. Schlong, here's a second thing I have maybe for you. Here's a second maybe conspiracy theory. Is it early onset CTE?
No.
Okay. Took you a long time to get to that answer.
I wanted to give it proper thought, and really, I
Okay.
just thought it was funny to take a while to just go with the straight no.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. FTR, Jeff Jarrett, and Jay Lethal defeat Slim J and the Varsity Athletes. Mrs. Money not very happy about that. She was just happy, though, to get a little eye candy out of her Varsity Athletes. So there's some miscommunication between Dax and Jeff, and they survive, and Jeff Jarrett hits the stroke on Tony Nese and motions to Dax for the pin, which he does. Poor trainer, Coach Nese, just eating pins in AEW. Briscoe runs out after the match and tries to keep the peace between everybody. Bandito challenges Orange Cassidy tonight. They sort of told us that. And then we go to the video package for the main event. That's El Hijo de Vikingo versus Drolistico for the AAA Mega Championship. And Vikingo defeats Drolistico. And of course, a crazy goddamn match. And then after the match, LFI return to the ring and beat the shit out of Vikingo and stand tall over him as Rampage goes off the air. I'm sorry, Rompage goes off the air. So, that was something I failed to mention too, by the way, is that LFI and Preston Vance sort of attacked Vikingo during the match. They were ejected. So that's when they returned. But interesting, Schlong, that clearly, like, they're setting something up with Vikingo to continue here on AEW television. He is not under contract.
He is not, but I think he's doing his North American run, and I think AEW with the relationship with AAA is probably the best. So makes sense. He's only here for a short period of time. Load up his matches.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's just interesting to see them putting so much into him. Maybe they're, trying to sort of, when his contract is up with AAA, sort of coax him, to sign with them, because you'd think they would want to sign him. But that was Rompage, Schlong. So anything you would like to mention specifically about Rompage that you thought was
a decent show for the, for being at random Saturday night time slot? I liked it. I had fun. Mox Daniels was good. Vikingo was really fun to watch. And that was a good time.
Apparently, they said that it did better Saturday night at 10 o'clock than it did the previous week on a Friday. What, like 9:30?
I don't think it did. Looking at the numbers,
I don't know. I thought I read that that's what happened, but who knows? It doesn't matter. It's just added programming for fucking TNT and Turner, or
exactly.
Discovery, whoever. So, Rampage. There was a lot on Rampage that sort of led into tonight. So, we are going to get to Dynamite shortly here. And we always take a break. We're going to take one because I do need to stretch my legs and get myself set up with my second half drink, Schlong, my peach mango tea Celsius. So why don't we step aside? We also want to tell everybody about the other great programming here on the Shining Wizards Network, because our buddies in the broadcast are checking us out. Matt, who is here with us sometimes, is part of the Shining Wizards. 30 Screams or Less, Radioactive Metal, all of these shows, fantastic shows and more, part of the Shining Wizards Network. And if you weren't sure about what shows are part of the network, well, listen here, and we'll be right back after this break.
Thank each and every one of you for tuning in every Monday night to listen to The Shining Wizards. If you'd like to continue to support us outside of listening, we've got a few ways for you to do that. If you shop at Amazon, go over to amazon.shiningwizards.com, do your shopping as usual, and when you make your purchase, a little bit of that purchase price will go back to support the show. If you like to wear t-shirts, merch.shiningwizards.com will take you to our Pro Wrestling Tees store, where we've got over a dozen great designs from over 11 years of professional wrestling podcasting. You can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/wizardspodcast, where each and every week we call out your name as one of our show producers, and the more you support us, the more things that you're entitled to receive, and believe me, they are fantastic. If you can't support us monetarily, if you don't shop at Amazon, that's absolutely fine. Continue to listen to us wherever you listen to us on the World Wide Web, and make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, and we can continue to bring you the love fest that is The Shining Wizards.
What's up, folks? It's your boy, the Impact Player, Mr. Philly Ray, inviting all of you to check out the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Join us as we cover all things current in the world of pro wrestling, as well as paying homage to the old school, the Squared Circle. So listen in and find out why we are the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting. Find us on all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast from. And as always, we are the proudest members of the Shining Wizards Network and Rant Entertainment Media.
Are you tired of being lied to every day by the mainstream media?
Do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
Do you want to make up your own mind about things and not be told what to think or say?
Then listen to Inconclusive Breakdown, a weekly anti-PC look at the world of entertainment and current events, brought to you without censorship or filters.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, BitChute, and on ShiningWizardsNetwork.com.
And also, we're a proud member of the Shining Wizards Network.
Got 30 minutes to kill?
Come check out 30 Screams or Less, where we review a horror movie in 30 minutes or less. We cover new movies and old ones too.
We'll give our honest thoughts on the movie, good or shit, as well as a rating of each one that we watch.
New episodes weekly, available on the Shining Wizards Network and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Corey.
Come check us out at 30 Screams or Less.
G'day guys, my name is Thomas, one half of the Broadcast Podcast. With our podcast, we go back and watch wrestling events from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, AEW, and many other wrestling promotions. You can check us out on Twitter at The Broadcast, that's TheBrokast, and you can also download all episodes on Apple Podcast, Castbox, Castro, and many other podcast apps.
You like your music heavy? Then check out Radioactive Metal on the Shining Wizards Network. For over 16 years now, Radioactive Metal has been one of the longest running podcasts. Over the years, we've interviewed some legendary metal acts, had some awesome discussions, and cranked a hell of a lot of tunes. So join your cool Uncle Snowy and his co-host Aaron for the audio mosh pit that is Radioactive Metal here on the Shining Wizards Network.
Well, the action is underway!
What's up, everyone? When on the Shining Wizards Network, be sure to check out Wrestling Night in Canada. If we're not recording another kick-ass podcast,
Or playing in punk bands.
Or recording kick-ass heavy metal albums,
then we're sitting back, we're grabbing a couple brews, and going over everything to do in the world of pro wrestling.
Because we're from Winnipeg, you idiots.
The Mark Order Podcast is the only show you need if you're looking for dedicated coverage of everything AEW on the Shining Wizards Network. Join us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern after Dynamite to chat along with the show. If you can't join us live, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social channels at MarkOrderPod and use the hashtag #JoinTheMarkOrder, because if you don't find us,
we will find you.
I'm Kevin Rowe.
I'm Al Day.
And we're a couple of down under pounders that co-host Rogue Day Dots, an action figure collecting podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything that tickles our fancy at any given moment.
We're grumpy old men, and sometimes people get on our nerves. And when you get on our nerves, guess what? You get off the lawn.
Get off my lawn, asshole! We also go on a little bit of a mission. We go back and we're grading every wrestling figure line that's out there. I'm talking LJNs. I'm talking Jacks. I'm talking Hasbros. Who doesn't like a little Hulkaplex? It's a Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production found on the Shining Wizards Network.
I'm Duke Bags.
Kevin Rowe.
And together we are the co-hosts of Your Duke and Road. If you want to hear about some terrible wrestling shows, we got you covered.
Well, we talk about good ones, too.
We're currently talking about the death of WCW.
I know what we're fucking talking about. Sometimes we get guest spots, like from the Taskmaster. I like to listen to the Your Duke and Road podcast. They're funny guys. I like when they talk about the Nards plows. I like Nards plows. That's a good move. And I like the Dungeon of Doom. You know, sometimes I call my butt the Dungeon of Doom. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, to Oklahoma.
Let me tell you a little bit about my favorite wrestling podcast. All right. It's a podcast from two men, Duke Bags, Kevin Rowe. They talk about professional wrestling. It's a man's sport, all right? And who better to talk about a man's sport than Duke Bags? Oklahoma.
And once in a while, Vince Russo stops by.
Oh, you piece of shit! If you're not listening to the Your Duke and Rowe podcast in the back with the boys, you piece of shit, I don't know what you're doing. It's, you gotta slide one in there. If you're a man, you're talking about something only a man can do. You're talking about sliding one in there. Bro, take the time to slide one in there. All right, bro, you piece of shit, slide one in there. A Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production that you can find on the Shining Wizards Network.
All right, we are back here on the Mark Order podcast, and before we move on, we just want to plug a few things. Be sure to follow us on our socials at Mark Order Pod, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all over the place. And we got a couple ways you could support us. Obviously, by following us on social, it helps support us. Subscribing on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. But if you'd like to show your support in a free way, you can go over to our link tree in our social profiles and get some free stickers. All you have to do is click the button to request free stickers and give us your full name, your full mailing address, the country you live in, and your email in case I have to ask you questions about your address. And we'll send you out some of these free Mark Order podcast stickers as soon as we can get them in the mail. So that's one way you can support us for free. And then the other way you could support us, if you'd like to spend some of your hard-earned dollars on us, is head over to our Pro Wrestling Tees store and pick up one of our fine t-shirts. You could hit that link in our link tree. You can go to prowrestlingtees.com/markorderpod, or you could just go to Pro Wrestling Tees and search for Mark Order Podcast, and our store will pop right up. We've got 4 shirts up. 2 front prints, 2 double-sided print t-shirts. So if you'd like to spend some dollars on us, we greatly appreciate it. I don't really have much more to say about that. Schlong, I do have one thing to say. I know we've been talking a lot about the beverages we drink, right? The Celsius, the Gatorade, the Polar. But Schlong, you know that I had some stomach surgery earlier or late in 2022. An important thing for me is getting in enough protein into my diet, because I really need to focus on eating protein. And I can't always sit down and eat a full meal, but you know what I can eat on the go? I can eat some protein bars. You know what I really love, Schlong?
What do you really love, Ant?
I really love these protein bars by One. Now, these One protein bars are fantastic. They taste good. They've got like 20 grams of protein and like 1 gram of sugar, like 20 to 25 carbs. They're like, and like between 200 and 230 calories. Really good for exactly what I need, Schlong. They also come in great flavors like birthday cake, s'mores, chocolate chip cookie, maple glazed donut. Schlong, I fucking love them. And we're not sponsored by them, but if they want to sponsor me, I will continue.
I feel like half of what we're doing now is you just figuring out who you can get to sponsor us for things you enjoy.
Schlong, I'm trying to get us some ad dollars. Okay, trying to get
Yeah,
us.
but we're giving. Why would they pay us when we're giving it away for free?
This is going to be the only time I talk about it until we get paid for it. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. We've been talking about Celsius week after week.
The hope is that we get picked up. That's an easy one. The protein
we're doing
bar
it for free.
Well, listen, all I'm saying is if you're looking for a great protein supplement, a bar to eat, pick up one of these One Nutrition bars. They're fantastic. I personally, my favorite is the maple glazed donut. I do like the birthday cake. I do like the s'mores. They have a peanut butter cup, chocolate peanut butter. That's a good one. Great flavors. And great.
They like great flavors. I'm
great for on
gonna
the go.
doubt their ability to taste like the things they say they taste like. But
Schlong, I'll say this: compared to some of the other ones out there, they are very tasty.
Because that is usually the problem with the protein bar.
They are very tasty, and they don't have that protein grainy taste. At least to me, you know what I mean. Like, remember Power Bars back in the day? Those things.
Oh God,
blew.
yeah.
They blew. These things are way better. It's like eating a candy bar more than a protein bar.
I mean, I'd prefer just eat the candy bar.
Who wouldn't? But that wouldn't give me the protein I need in my diet to continue to fuel my weight loss and to build lean muscle.
Give me the candy bar.
Okay. Anyway, Schlong, why don't we talk about Dynamite tonight? Because there were quite a few things that happened. And I need you to turn the tide on me. I need you to tell me why this was maybe a better show than I think. Because it just seemed flat for me. I don't disagree that what we got advanced some stuff. And we continued to tell stories. I don't know if it was the crowd. Or what? It seemed flat to me, but turn me as we talk through the show. How's that?
Okay. I will turn you each segment at a time.
Okay. Now I will say this too, just off the top. I did notice that it looked like, remember last week we were saying they were maybe trying some different production shots and stuff like that. Didn't see so much of that this week, but I did notice. We're not talking about the Dax Jeff Jarrett match yet, but I did notice that Dax's entrance, they were doing a different lighting cue in the ring. Did you see that? It had like these patterns in the lights and stuff like that. I'd never noticed that. Have they been doing that and I just haven't been paying attention?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. I don't really pay attention myself, so I can't tell you.
I just noticed it tonight for the first time. It almost looked like I don't know, like there were swirls or like, it almost looked like almost like a tie-dye thing.
Well, that's kind of his color, so maybe that's been what they're doing. I don't know.
Who knows? But from a production standpoint, not terrible tonight, except for the fact they threw it to Renee at one point and you couldn't hear what she was saying. But let's talk through the start of the show, Schlong. We open up with Bandito versus Orange Cassidy for the AEW International Championship. Now, Schlong, to those who maybe don't remember, because it's been a while since we've seen him, Bandito is All Elite. I believe what had happened was he was having visa issues, and I think it's all worked out now. And he's here, and we're probably going to be seeing more of him now that they have him back in AEW.
Well, I can't believe they wouldn't think he'd have visa issues. He's a bandit.
It's true.
I mean, they're going to try to keep him away. It's right in his name. He's a bandit. He's a bandito. What is a bandito? It's a bandit.
And he wears a mask over his face at all times. So I'm sure if he's trying to enter the country and they said, "Sir, you need to remove your mask," he's probably said no.
Oh, I'm on my way to rob a bank.
Yeah. So they've all got it worked out now, though, apparently. And he's here. So he had a match here with Orange Cassidy tonight. Now, Orange Cassidy did retain. So no change in the title tonight. Post-match, Orange Cassidy gives Bandito a pair of sunglasses. and embraces him before raising his hand. So it was very fun to see Bandito with those sunglasses on over his mask.
Bandito has my favorite mask, by the way.
I agree. I say that every time me and Mrs. Money watch. I say he maybe has the coolest mask because it's that bandit mask covering his whole face.
Yeah, it is my favorite mask out of all.
But he's great. He's just fantastic in the ring, and it was very good. I thought it was really great to see him back in the ring, and this was a good match for him. Now, I thought there was a chance. I honestly thought there was a chance that they'd make a switch here tonight, and I wouldn't have hated it if there was a switch, because I think it could be something that would be good to put on Bandito, right? But they didn't make the switch. That's fine. It's still on Orange Cassidy. I'm just interested to sort of see where this championship eventually goes. And that's not going to be the first time you hear me say that tonight, because there's another match coming up later. But I didn't hate this match. I thought it was highly entertaining. And this is not anything that I thought was mid on this card. So what do you think, Schlong?
This was a very good match. Orange Cassidy is a great wrestler. Bandito is a great wrestler / bandit. It was highly entertaining. I knew Orange Cassidy would win, but there was always a seed of doubt in my head that maybe Bandito comes back and takes it. The only reason I doubted Bandito was just because I'm not sure like how much he's going to be around, stuff like that, until I see more consistency. The difference between Orange Cassidy and the one you're going to name later in terms of wrestling belts is that I can see Orange Cassidy dropping this at any time. His is not a question of who, it's just when. Like who, like they have enough of talent at that level that they could step in and anyone could grab that belt. And I'd be like, okay. So I don't feel like he's run out of challengers. I don't feel like, and he wins differently. Like he's not cheating or doing the same way every time. His matches have different, as much as people try to be like, oh, he gets beat up and then he comes back. It's like, no, his matches have different feels. If you watch it, they each tell a little bit different of a story. Like he was in control for a lot of this match and then he lost it for a little bit and then he got it back. But yeah, loved this match. What an opener. Orange Cassidy is one of the best out there. I don't care what anyone says. And Bandito is a bandit.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there, Schlong. I agree. It's not who, it's when they decide to pull it off him. And that's, I think, the difference here between this belt and the belt we see later get defended is the fact that essentially like the list of challengers for this belt is endless, right? Because it's an international title. So they can bring people over from New Japan, from AAA, from anywhere. We've seen them bring in, outside people to challenge for this belt. So I don't hate it. I'm with you. It's just when they decide to make the move. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Orange Cassidy next. But after this, they go backstage for Renee Paquette interviewing Adam Cole. And this is unfortunately, we couldn't hear any of the lead in. Oh, I'm sorry. She was interviewing Adam Cole. Thank you. And you couldn't hear what she was saying at the start, but they eventually get the sound going. And Cole says he's going to the ring to call Chris Jericho out tonight and show him exactly the mistake that he's made. And if he doesn't come down, he'll go find him. But Orange Cassidy rolls up and Bandito comes up behind him. And Orange asks Renee if she's there to interview them after this match. And she says, no, she's getting to the bottom of what's going on with Adam Cole. And thank you. He walks off saying, oh, and Bandito steps up and says, oh, and we go to break. So Schlong.
Oh, it's magic.
Schlong, this was the point. It was the point in the interview where I had turned to Mrs. Money after the Orange Cassidy and Bandito bit, where I said, if they somehow figure out a way to turn Bandito into like a mini Orange Cassidy, I also wouldn't hate that. Like,
that'd be the funniest thing in the world.
It would be hilarious. But the main point of this, I did like the promo that Cole gave to what we would see sort of later on. We're seeing a different side of Adam Cole that we haven't really seen since he's returned. So I did like it. I don't know if you have anything you want to add here.
Not for this. I have things to add later, but not for this.
Okay, we'll get to that later. But we get back from commercial, and Darby Allin and Jungle Boy are being interviewed backstage. And Darby says that if Jack believes in the pillar stuff, he'll have his back. And Perry says that they had some harsh words. They did have some harsh words that they said last week, and it should have been nice if it was. It would have been nice if it was two of them this week. And Allin agrees because he thinks he'd win. And Darby says he'll see him out there later tonight. So we're leading to that. Basically, the crux, I did a terrible job of explaining that, but basically the crux, Schlong, was that, Darby says, I shouldn't have been up in the rafters last week. I should have been there to save your ass because the way things went down was bullshit. And he basically wanted Jack to agree to sort of have his back. So, but they're still sort of at each other's throat, right? Because, Jungle Boy or Darby thinks he's better. Jungle Boy thinks he's better. So interesting to see what'll happen later on. Not sure if you want to add anything here when we get to later, Schlong.
Just go later.
Okay. We move on to Dax Harwood versus Jeff Jarrett. So clearly this is coming off of everything that happened on Rompage. And Schlong, I will tell you this. I thought this match was the shits. I did not like this. Now I've been very honest here about not hating seeing Jeff Jarrett. And he had been pretty good in the ring. Not the case tonight. I couldn't tell if it was the two of them not have sort of worked across from each other, any times before, or if it was a mismatch here. But like, there were clearly moments where like Dax was standing up, and then just like he hit the mat and held his legs up and allowed Jeff Jarrett to get him in like figure 4 position. Like, it was bad. But just getting to the result, and then we'll get your take here. Jarrett wins by pinfall with the stroke. That happens because oh my god, can't remember his name with the pencil. Jesus Christ. Sanjay Dutt. Sorry, I'm thinking of 8 different people. Sanjay Dutt interferes and allows Jeff Jarrett to get out with the win. Post-match, that's when Sanjay gives Jarrett Dax's tag team championship belt. He's kissing it like he won it. And clearly this isn't over, and we know that Friday night Cash is going to fight Jay Lethal. That should be a better match. I did not like this, Schlong. This was bad to me.
Okay. But before you judge this, I need you to think about one thing and one thing only.
Yes.
How mad it must have made our co-host Kate. And that alone is worth everything.
But did it really make her mad, Schlong? Because if you remember, in the hierarchy
of tag teams,
well, it should trickle down to singles, right? You would think.
It should in theory, but she's weird like that.
Well, to remind the listeners, the hierarchy of tag teams for our other host here is Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, Big Gap, the Gun.
No, it's a small gap between those two.
She said,
and then it's a huge gap.
I thought she said Big Gap, Guns, Big Gap, everybody else.
I thought it was a small. Either way, it's those two are her top. But I think
clearly
that's only as a team.
All time.
That is all time. I think that's only as a team, though. I think single, she's still not sold on Jarrett, so she's like, hey. So I take pleasure in her pain on this one. Listen, it wasn't a great match. I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you this was a great match. I think Jarrett was a step behind, and I think Dax was struggling. And Dax is an amazing wrestler. I just think tonight he couldn't time Jarrett well. Like, he couldn't time, like you said, I think he was setting up for moves thinking Jarrett would be there quicker than he was, and I just think he couldn't time him. That being said, I don't mind the story. listen, I don't love this as like, I don't want FTR in this feud long because I want them to have like a real tag feud. But this feels very much like a couple weeks established. Like the first big tag feud for any champs is never a major one because you just can't risk it. You always give them like that warm up feud after they win the belts, and this is their warm up feud. This is their like, hey, yeah, we're gonna give you an easy one, and then we'll start giving you the ones you really deserve. So I didn't hate this. Dax loses singles. That's what he does. He wins his tags. He loses singles. It wasn't a great match, I won't lie, but in the grand scheme of things, did very little damage to an awesome show. Every show has a downer. Every show needs a bathroom break. You found yours.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I'm with you there. It just, they were off. They did not do it together. So it is what it is. It's just surprising because Dax is such a good wrestler. And, you know, Jarrett has enough history in the ring. You would think this is a no-brainer, passable match. I really
think he couldn't time him. It just seemed like his timing was off. Like Jarrett was moving a step slower than Dax was prepared for, and Dax couldn't figure out how to get back, how to get it timed so things look right.
Well, let's move on from this because we were promised we'd hear from Tony Khan. Now, Schlong, it was not promised as a huge announcement or a special announcement. It was promoted as we would hear from Tony Khan. And, I didn't mind this announcement because of two things. One, what the announcement was, and I'm going to get to that momentarily. And two, because this was a pre-taped sort of announcement by him, which I believe helped out greatly compared to the last special announcement where he was rambling like the cocaine bear. So I think that for that reason it worked, but also they didn't call this a huge sort of grand special announcement or huge announcement. It was just, we're going to hear from Tony. And I liked it because he let us know that the Owen Hart Cup is going to be returning to AEW. Now, for those who maybe don't remember, AEW started their partnership with Dr. Martha Hart and the Owen Hart Foundation last year. The Owen Cups, the Owen Cup belts and the cup itself were awarded to Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Adam Cole for winning the women's and men's tournament. And this is going to be the second edition, and it's going to kick off with an opening ceremony at Double or Nothing on May 28th. And then matches are going to take place during AEW's summer tour of Owen Hart's native Canada. And that's also going to include matches at the AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door in Toronto. And what was cool is that Tony Khan reminded us that it honors Owen Hart's connections to New Japan because he had an IWGP title. He also announced that the finals of the respective tournaments are going to happen in Owen Hart's hometown of Calgary when AEW debuts there on July 15th. That, by the way, for those who aren't looking at a calendar, if you fast forward to July 15th, Schlong, Saturday. So, looks like if they're doing a Saturday show, if that's the first one, that's a nice hook for it. But it is cool that, to me, it is cool that this is happening through Canada, right? It makes sense. And I think it's a nice announcement. It's not a huge announcement. It's not a special announcement. We were just going to hear from Tony Khan. So I wasn't 100% sure what we were going to hear. This wasn't like, earth-shattering news, but it is, for me, cool, especially cool, I think, to the fans in Canada, to have that sort of specially announced that it's going to take place again. It's going to be basically happening throughout Canada as they spend their summer there. And it's going to end in Calgary. So what did you think about this, Schlong? From the presentation through the actual announcement?
I mean, it was better, like you said, it was better than the last one where he looked really bugged out and just did not come off well. Clearly, they need to do more of this style than the other style. They need to do this one where I'm sure he could do multiple takes if he screws up and they get edited a little bit better. This made a lot of sense for the way they announced it and then what they announced. This is perfectly reasonable. This is something, if you're going to hear from them, this is what I would expect, that type of level. And I'm glad the tournament's coming back. I'm glad they're making a big deal of it again. And in Canada, it's going to be a big deal. So, like, I expect a little more pomp and circumstance this time around than last year because of the Canadian thing. I think you're going to see more not family. Well, like, yeah, Martha. I think you'll just see a little bit more of like the extended stuff involved. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and maybe it'll be on that Saturday show.
You know what is also interesting to sort of think ahead to, Schlong. Now, I don't I don't know anything about what Bret Hart's got going on, right? Like, if Bret Hart, I believe, may be under a Legends contract with the WWE. Maybe not. Who knows? But it would be cool if they could find a way to maybe have Bret Hart there in Calgary for the final, to help, award the cup or the belts to the winners. To me, that would be like just such a cool thing to have, right? To sort of wrap this up for the second year. Again, I don't know what Bret Hart's status is, and I'm not doing the research right now. But to me, that would be a nice little cherry on top. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be great. I don't think he can, but that would be really cool. He can go up and tell the Young Bucks how he hates that they slap their legs. So that'd be really fun.
That would be great. Well, not if it's on a Saturday show where they may not be there.
That's true.
All right, Schlong, moving on. Wardlow. We had known we were going to hear from Wardlow, but Wardlow is apparently in action tonight versus one of the local talents. Now, Schlong, I'm going to sort of take a sidestep here for a moment, because there was a comment made by Mrs. Money. And this is going to lead to something also that I'm going to mention after as we work through this. Schlong, Mrs. Money did say to me that Wardlow could get it, right? She's into Wardlow, but not without his little, samurai ponytail. Doesn't like the haircut.
Really? I prefer the haircut. That's just me.
That's what she told me, but that's going to lead to some sort of second thing that I have here in the second half. Anyway, Wardlow makes quick work of the local talent, and he hits the Powerbomb Symphony, and we go out. But post-match, Arn Anderson gets on the mic, and he tells the young local talent to get an ice bath and drink a 12-pack. And he says people have been wondering why he'd aligned with Wardlow. He says he's been in the business for 40 years. He's figured out who's who in the dressing room. And it's ironic that tomorrow's the NFL draft, and you get the number one pick and turn a team that's pretty good into a dynasty, or you could. And Wardlow is AEW's dynasty. Wardlow has a future unlike anyone in the back, and he could put AEW on his shoulders and carry the company into the next millennium. But Arn tells him if there's some stuff he's gonna have to agree with. Sometimes you're gonna have to pull an eye out, wrench a thumb, or bite a thumb off, or crack a man over the head with a chair. Well, that's when Christian Cage and Luchasaurus come out. So I'm gonna pause there real quick. Well, actually, they come down to ringside while Cage's music is playing. There's no confrontation, but a stare down. Luchasaurus doesn't necessarily want to leave when Cage goes to leave. So there's still this will they, won't they thing going on. Schlong, I also want to pause here real quick, because Mrs. Money also made another comment. We all know that she has a thing for Christian Cage. But she said she's not really into the turtleneck and suede jacket thing anymore. She doesn't like the color of the jacket. So Schlong, that's when something hit my brain, and I'm going to put it here. I'll put it here out on the air. I'm thinking, and maybe people can let us know if they think this would be a fun idea, but I pitched an idea to Mrs. Money, And Schlong, you tell me if you think this would be a good idea. I pitched some bonus shows that we could do here. And basically, I would spend an hour per bonus show with Mrs. Money to do an AEW roster review. Because we've spent some time here, Schlong, where we've talked about who's on the A squad, who's on the A boyfriend squad, who's on the B squad, who's on the C squad. But we've never really kept track of it according to the roster. They do have a roster page up now on AEW, on All Elite Wrestling's website. So Schlong, I'm thinking about doing some bonus shows, an hour with Mrs.
Listen,
Money.
I don't. I want to watch that. I don't want to be on it. I want to watch that as a
No. Yes, it would be me and Mrs. Money.
I will say, so far, I'd be a
Going
little
through the
worried if I
roster.
were you.
Mhm.
Mrs. Money's taste seemed to be very fickle. Suddenly she's out on Christian.
Schlong, I can't get a bead on her taste. That's the problem. Because sometimes it's big meaty men, and other times, like this enhancement talent tonight, she was like, "Oh, he's cute. He's got a nice bod." I'm like,
do we know who he was?
Wayfish. No, I have no idea who it was, but he was Wayfish.
He's Wayfish.
And that's the other thing, because sometimes it's big burly dudes. Sometimes it's Wayfish sort of heroin chic dudes. Sometimes they're gothy. Sometimes they're older. I can't get a read on it.
But
So
then
that's
she's like,
why
I'm out on Christian because he's wearing the wrong colors. Like, that's very fickle to me.
Listen, I don't know why. I can't give a run. That's why I'm thinking we have to. Oh my God, Sloan might hit it out of the park with a title. The Many Men of Mrs. Money.
Oh my God, Sloan, you really nailed it. She has to do the show now.
Schlong, I'm going to tell you something. She was into the idea. And I told her it just would be an hour, and she was like, okay. But I said, but it would be like multiple episodes because we can't get through the whole roster in one show. We're going to stop. We're going to talk. I think we should do it.
I think so too.
Anybody listening, if you think that's a good idea, please let us know. When this goes up in podcast form, we usually have something up like it says, "What did you think of this show?" Please let us know if you think that's a good idea. Maybe we'll put a poll up there too, like with the podcast form. Leave a comment on the YouTube, whatever. I think it's gonna happen. So anyway, Schlong, what did you? Yeah, a few yeses. All right, we'll take it. So Schlong, jumping back to the the actual show, what did you think about this weird promo from Arn Anderson talking about gouging eyes and biting off thumbs, and this whole thing with Christian Cage?
Arn Anderson has entered the stage of old man where he just starts rambling, but somehow it's even scarier now because you're like, why is his mind going here? Like, he must have really gouged eyes and chewed off thumbs because he's so old. How could he just think of that? Like, it's like that old man ramble. I love it. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but I think it's hilarious. Just like when your grandfather starts telling a story, would start telling a story of like weird shit, and you're like, how the hell did we get what you were doing to your car in 1943? Well, Arn Anderson tells the story, but somehow in his story, someone's dead on the ground. So I'm not exactly against it. I'm loving the Christian. Christian is the feud for Wardlow, but you use Luchasaurus as like making things even. And I really appreciate that's the work of a good heavy, where they aren't the threat. Like, they aren't the one who's actually going to be winning, like challenging for the title, but they're the one that makes things even because Christian has still got so much in him that like he's the threat here. He's the one, and he's clearly the mastermind, and his turtleneck jacket look is clearly to show like super intelligence. That's the whole design there, like the professor look. I'm dictating all this in my mind.
Right.
Here's my dinosaur that I brought back to life with my cloning technology out of amber. You know, that whole thing. So I'm for it. Like I said, the Arn Anderson, I like Arn Anderson with Wardlow. I think he adds something. I think Wardlow's promos were always Wardlow's a good talker. It's not necessarily that I think Wardlow's promos were weak. I think they're trying to give Wardlow a sense of danger that I don't think, like, it's weird. Like, I just think they're like Arn Anderson's Arn Anderson. It's hard. I can't even express properly what I want to say, so I'm gonna back out of that. But he just he provides something to anyone with his crazy old man. I'm gonna pull my Glock out, stab you in the eye, shoot you in the head, jump on you, and then somehow we're back at wrestling. I don't know. I love it. I don't know where we are, but I love it.
Well, I just don't know where we're going next with this. If it's going to be Luchasaurus first, and then it's going to be Cage, but I think that eventually we'll find out, right? So, hey Schlong, by the way, like I had mentioned that people could leave comments on the podcast episodes, like on Spotify and stuff. I should just mention a couple weeks ago, I forgot to bring this up last week because we were talking with Matt. Episode 107, another whirlwind episode. We did a poll asking people on Spotify. We did it asking people what they thought of Keith Lee's new silver look. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or do you not understand it? There were only 3 votes because I don't, people probably don't know we're going to start doing polls on the Spotify, but
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know we were doing polls on the Spotify, so there you go.
I just tried it and we're going to keep doing it. We'll try to add polls to the episodes, but 2 people said that they love it. 1 people said I don't understand it. Also, the reason I bring this up is because usually we have Q&A that goes up on the episodes. It stays there and we don't really change it. It's just tell us what you thought about this episode pretty much. Like, what did you think? Or like we asked people what they thought about the watch along format on the bonus episode we did for Battle of the Belt. I got 1 response from last week's episode, the post road trip Dynamite. Now I don't know if this person actually knew, and I'm not going to say their name, but I don't know if they actually knew. They know Matt, but their comment was, "Who the hell is this Matt guy? Seriously, get him the fuck out of here, D-bag."
I have a feeling they know him. I don't think you would.
I would like to think they don't. Okay.
Yeah, I like to think they do. I don't want Matt getting shit on by people that don't know him. I only like it if people know him.
I think Matt is like, and I don't mean to keep derailing us, but I like to think that those types of things help Matt, almost like the Emperor in Star Wars.
He needs the hatred.
Yeah.
To fuel.
Give me your hate. Feel it. I have a feeling that Matt loves that.
I mean, Matt won't give a fuck, which is the funny thing.
Exactly.
He just doesn't, but
if anything, he'll thrive on it. He will.
Oh, he will. They'll just start showing up more. So
all right, let's
go. More hate comments.
And you know what? You got to tune in to see if Matt's going to pop in, especially if you hate him, right? You got to hear what he's going to say next. So, Schlong,
we don't even know when he's going to pop in.
No, it's very true. We don't. All right, let's jump back in here. Renee Paquette is backstage with Sammy Guevara. Now, Schlong, I will tell you this. Before I even get to what happens here, I fucking loved this so much. So, Renee is interviewing Sammy, and MJF comes in to tell him it's his big night, and he gives him a kiss on the forehead. And Sammy kisses Max on the forehead and tells him, no, it's our big night. And they complain about everybody complaining about them. You know, the people saying that Sammy's getting the payday, and that MJF and him are sort of sullying the purity of the sport. But they say they don't care, and they laugh in Renee's face. And Guevara tells us that, he's got a big fat check and Max gets to keep his reign of terror rolling. But Guevara says that he has a present for MJF. It's a matching vest. And he puts it on Friedman. And Max says, hey, buddy, I got you a gift. And it's a matching Burberry scarf. And also here, MJF mentioned, like, what do you idiots think? I really want a 4-way? No way. I'm not doing a 4-way. That's why I did this whole thing and Tony Khan, blah, blah, blah. Well, they hug cheek to cheek and we go to break. So we're clearly building up to this match that's going to happen next. But Schlong, I fucking loved this. And I love something that happens later, maybe even more, but I loved this in this show. The whole thing with MJF and sort of courting Sammy to get his way. I think this is just a great sort of arch to this story.
This was incredible. This was incredible. I have no other way of saying it. This was a whole lot of fun. The matching the vest, and then the scarf, and the kiss on the forehead from each. This is such stupid shit, and I love it.
Did you, by the way, notice? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Did you notice in MJF's? They didn't call it out, but you could see it when he put the vest on. The lining was the Burberry plaid.
I didn't catch that. That's amazing.
Pretty sure.
This is like. This has been. I've loved this. I'm ashamed. I'm sad it's gonna end sooner rather than later, because this has just been fucking hilarious to me. This weird friendship based off money. The fact that Max is gonna pay Sammy a load of money to just lay down, which is such a good thing on Max's character of being like, "Oh, I'm better than you, and I could beat you in the ring, but also I just don't feel like it, so here's money."
Yeah,
like that is such a good character trait. So, oh yeah, I was cracking up when I watched this.
It was so good, and Pedro is confirming, yes, the lining was Burberry. So yeah, I love this. We're gonna talk a little bit more about their friendship as we sort of move on here. But Schlong, they go to commercial. When they get back, your guy RJ City's backstage, but unfortunately, John Moxley clobbers him in the face. And he gets on the mic as Claudio and Wheeler Yuta come up behind him. And he says, tonight's a big night for Blackpool Combat Club, and they have some scars to leave. So a little bit of foreshadowing. But Schlong, I just wanted to see if you're okay, because your boy RJ City just...
We should all
got
be in mourning over what happened to RJ City.
It was his big moment.
It's uncalled for.
Hmm.
He deserves retribution. I wonder if this is going to lead to his first AEW match in some fashion, which is obviously just going to be a beatdown beyond belief. But I'm just wondering if it's like his first dark or whatever match.
Schlong, I want to know how you feel about this. Marky Mark Kayfabe says he deserved it. Oh boy, Schlong is getting in the camera, readjusting the mic.
Who the hell do you think you are? This man, on a weekly basis, provides us at least a half hour of beautiful free entertainment. And this, after years and years of blood, sweat, and tears into this wrestling business, just for you people, and so that he can put food on his plate. And this is how you treat him? This is what you do? He deserved it. What did he deserve? That he stood in there to talk? And he didn't even get to talk. What did he do to earn it? Oh, because Renee and him don't get along? Renee has been nothing but rude to RJ since she arrived. He was there first. He was their leading news person, and she decided to step in and take over. And that is disrespectful to the man that is RJ. He has done more for this company than Renee ever will. He is a legend.
Well, Schlong, that sort of feeds in. Pedro says he believes that Renee sent the attack. Are you along the same line of conspiracy theory?
Oh, she 100%. She's jealous of RJ City.
They're both Canadians,
knows
right?
She can't get. She's evil Canadian.
Oh boy.
She knows that she doesn't have anywhere near the talent level of RJ City. but he is so far above her. He's above everyone. Like, that's not even a knock on Renee. He's just that much better than everyone else. The best interviewer in the game.
Well, Gordon Post says he thinks Renee does it better. Maybe.
Just what is going on with our chat tonight? They're just all wrong.
Well, Jesse Ozog does he's on your side, I think. He says, "Who cold cocks a Canadian? What a hoser."
That's Jesse gets it. What a hoser.
But just know, Schlong, just know. Marky Mark Kayfabe says you got heat.
Well, if you're a fan of Renee and Moxley, you're going to cold cock me out of nowhere. I'm not a fan of that. I'm a man of honor, of integrity, of respect.
Well, Marky Mark feels like Renee's a star and RJ City's a nobody compared to Renee.
Renee is clinging onto the coattails of RJ City.
Wow. Schlong, I mean, I didn't mean to make you so heated. You are white hot.
You didn't do it. It was the kayfabe one. And Mr. Post.
Maybe it's just kayfabe.
Mr. Post had some anger there too.
Well, not Gordon. He's never living the fabe, but maybe Marky Mark is.
I don't know. Keep my head on a swivel is what Marky Mark is saying. I'm hiring security. That's it.
Well, Schlong, just be on the lookout, okay? Bolo. I'm
hiring security. I hear the Acolyte Protection Agency is still out for hire.
Ooh.
I would put them on my payroll. I'll be fine. And then I'll hire security for RJ City because the man deserves it.
It's a good call. Good call. Schlong, we do, after that devastating segment, we do get our Pillars tournament final match between Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara. This is to see who will face MJF at Double or Nothing for the AEW World Championship. And thankfully, MJF is on commentary for this one. He's eating his pickles. They are limited edition MJF pickles. Now, I didn't do any research into this, Schlong, because I got into something else as I was sitting watching the show. But if there are MJF limited edition pickles, I would certainly try them because they're probably better than all the other ones out there, and they know it. So, anyway. Going through this, this was a highly entertaining match. A table does get pulled out. Jesse Ozog says they go on sale at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Holy moly. I have to get some. I've still got a bottle of a little bit of the bubbly, Schlong, so I'll get a thing of pickles.
We can have some bubbly and some pickles.
Ooh, I do like bubbly and pickles. So this was a highly entertaining match for me. Again, I think we've spoken about this numerous times. For as much shit as Sammy Guevara gets, for maybe some of his things outside of the ring or the perception of sort of how he handles his business, he is a very good wrestler. A table does get pulled out during this match. Guevara gets set up on it, but Tay Mello runs interference, and Sammy Guevara is able to counter that with a Spanish fly off the top, which I didn't think he was going to pull off. It looked like he couldn't get all the way up to the top rope, but they do get it. And then he puts Darby back out on the table on the outside, and Sammy, sorry, I'm getting my Darby's mixed up. Sammy hits the 450 senton or whatever on Darby on top of the table. Just a ridiculous move. So Darby beats a count out. And now MJF gets up from commentary to head ringside. Tay Mello is running interference with the ref. MJF tosses Darby's skateboard to Darby in the ring, and that's when Sammy hits the mat hard. The referee turns around, and he sees Sammy on the mat holding his head. Darby's holding his skateboard, and Paul Turner falls for it. He rings for the bell, and Sammy wins by DQ with what I guess some are calling an Eddie Guerrero special to become the number one contender for the AEW World Championship. There is some other stuff we'll get into, Schlong. Let's pause here and just talk a little bit about the match. Here's the one wrestle logic thing I don't get. Turner allows the table, but the skateboard is too much.
So I've come to realize in pro wrestling anymore, and this isn't just AEW, this seems to be across the board, tables are no longer considered foreign objects. They are. You're allowed to put your person through a table, and it's not considered disqualification. If you use an outside weapon, such as a chair or a skateboard, that is when you enter the foreign object territory. This is what I have discovered in wrestling now. Is that's because I've had the same question. Like I don't remember, like when we were growing up, I don't remember tables being able to be used like this in every match, but literally in both companies, you use a table, it's okay. I could see kind of the logic to it in the sense of like it's a structure, it's existing. You're not actually like it's very flimsy logic, but I don't understand how a ref ever falls for this trick. And listen, I get it. Like it is such an old school wrestling move. I know it's the Eddie Guerrero special. I think it was done before him even. Like it is a very old school wrestling trick. I love that. And I'm not actually criticizing the move or it being used or its successfulness. I am 100% in universe, in kayfabe, questioning how a ref is ever stupid enough to fall for this. You got a bad guy and he's on the ground and you didn't see him get hit and you know he has people out there handing him things. Like you don't think that they would set this up. But refs are notoriously dumb. I think there's an intelligence test, and I think you have to score under a certain percentage to be a referee. That is what I have deducted because the calls they make, this has been happening for years, and this guy just didn't even say it. Like, oh, I didn't hear the skateboard make contact. I didn't see it get swung. I know that there's outside interference for the other guy, but I'm still going to call this a DQ because that's what I do. It doesn't make sense to me.
I know. It's just such weird wrestle logic. You know what I mean? Like, tables are cool. Chairs are cool. Skateboard, whoa, way too far.
Well, chairs aren't cool either, though. If he had a chair, he would have been.
Well, now wait. Because it depends, right? Is he using the table inside the ring or outside of the ring? Because sometimes chairs outside of the ring, passable, but you put
Not
it
if you hit him. You can. I think you can throw him into him, but I don't think you can hit him with it.
Just, it's still weird, right?
Oh,
like
it's very. We have entered, and it's, again, this isn't just AEW. Like I've even noticed it with WWE. We have entered like ECW logic.
I'm sorry, what logic?
WWE ECW logic.
Oh, okay. I know that one. Yep.
And
that's
fairness,
by the way, that's the roots of true hardcore wrestling.
Yes.
Okay.
And while the best wrestling we've ever seen, it had notoriously poor logic. Like the rules were just all over the place. You never actually knew what the rules were at any given time.
Sure.
And we've kind of entered into that in all of wrestling. And for the most part, I enjoy it because it just allows for a lot of crazy shit to happen in matches. And I'm like, whatever. The more fun, the better. But every now and again, I'm like, huh? And this is one of those, the table thing has always bothered me. But I've come to accept that somewhere down the line, the refs of the world got together and said, I don't feel like DQing people for tables anymore. We'll just let that go.
Right.
And they just let it go.
Even though they go out of the ring and check on the talent.
Well, they got to make sure they're okay. I mean, if they're hurt.
Well, it is a rare thing. They don't do a lot of DQs in AEW. So this was a rare DQ win for Sammy. So after the match, oh, by the way, Schlong, other than that, match was entertaining, right? Like these guys can go.
match.
Yeah.
So far, by the way, if you're keeping track of this Dynamite, the only thing you didn't like so far was the Jeff Jarrett Dax match.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It just seems so flat. Maybe that's why I'm like
Just
being tricked.
saying.
All right, you're
I'm
you're
just
swaying me. You're
saying.
swaying me. You're swaying me. Just keep going. You're swaying me. So post-match, Schlong MJF raises Sammy's hands. They put the boots to Darby. Paul Turner tries to get some order, but Jungle Boy has to come down before the heels sort of scatter. And Tony Schiavone is just sort of talking vaguely into his mic, saying something like, "Whoa, hold on, I've got Tony Khan in my ear." And he's just going, "Yeah, huh? Wait, what? Huh? Okay, hell yes, okay." And that's when Max gets on the mic because Darby Allin and Jack Perry are sort of, bickering at each other in the ring. Sammy and MJF are gloating on the stage. Max is on the mic telling them that they can beat the hell out of each other because it's just going to make the moment better. He tells them that they suck and they're going to go back to the undercard where they belong. I did especially like the fact that he said that Darby's going to go back to using his tears to play with himself while he listens to My Chemical Romance. That was very funny for me. But then Tony Schiavone gets on the mic and calls MJF a prick before saying that he spoke with Tony Khan and that Sammy Guevara did earn a title shot. That is true, but he may not be the only one because next week there's going to be a tag match. Jungle Boy and Darby Allin are going to team against Sammy and MJF. And if the faces win, they're going to get added to the match as a Pillars 4-way match. And if they don't, then it's just going to be Sammy and MJF as advertised. And clearly MJF is not happy. He says he's going to kill Tony, but Sammy's able to keep him away. We do go to break, but Schlong, I want to continue to the post after the break because we go backstage and Renee tries to interview MJF and Sammy, but Max starts to pop off on Tony Khan saying it's been like this since day one, but as long as he's the champion, the belt goes with him wherever he goes, and that's not how he's going to keep him here. They get to Sammy and Max get to Max's car, and Max opens the door, and Sammy tries to get in, but Max turns around and says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, Sammy, what are you doing?" And Sammy's like, "I thought we were going to go." And Max is like, "Oh, no, buddy, it's full." And the camera pans over inside the car, and it's completely fucking empty. And so MJF goes, "Sorry, buddy, it's full. We'll see you tomorrow." And he closes the door, and they go off. But Sammy is clearly not happy at this, sort of realizing that he's just being used. So I love this interaction, Schlong. This continued sort of best friends or frenemies thing that's going on. But post-match, Schlong, immediately after the break, the backstage segment, what'd you think of all that? And the news about the possible 4-way.
We're getting a 4-way. Let's just accept that.
100%.
And that's what we wanted. So I love Tony's wave to MJF when he was freaking out and trying to get at Tony. And he's just like,
right.
Because he's so mad at the call. I was wondering how they were going to get to the 4-way. It's a really weird and roundabout way of doing it, but at the same point, there is some logic there of like Tony Khan watching these two cheat their way through the tournament that he set up and being like, all right, well then F you, this is what we're going to do. So I'm not too upset about it. The empty car had me cackle. Though part of me is like, the only thing I don't understand is I thought Sammy knew he was being used. Like I thought it was a mutual thing, and then in that moment it almost felt less than mutual, and I'm like, wait a minute. Like Sammy knew he was not actually MJF's BFF. They were just two guys with one wanted to get paid and one didn't want to wrestle, but it's a very minor gripe. Also, I've decided to share a little bit about me for everyone.
Oh,
The
okay.
weird things that this is so random and stupid, but
You
it's
don't
just
often do this, so I'm excited.
no, you're gonna be like, oh, this was nothing, so don't worry. This is what goes through my brain when I'm watching Jungle Boy come out, and this is literally every single time Jungle Boy comes out. So I need you to understand, at some point in my head, and this is year one of AEW, Jungle Boy coming out. What the fuck was that?
It's
Jungle
all right.
Boy coming out. The song "I'll Tumble for You" went through my head, and it transferred to "I'll jungle for you, I'll
Oh,
jungle for you," and dude, literally, and I'm not making every single fucking time he walks out, I have about 10 seconds of that song going through my head, and I cannot stop it. I know it makes no sense, and it drives me up a wall, but it is what goes through my head for Jungle Boy from now. So my personal theme song for Jungle Boy isn't even the actual song. It's a parody of a song that I just connected for no apparent reason.
These are the inner workings of Schlong's brain.
I'll jungle for you. I'll jungle for you. I'll jungle for you.
He doesn't, it's not just puns on this show. It's puns all over the goddamn place.
This is my brain.
This is your brain. Goddamn.
I'll
Goddamn,
jungle
pal.
for you. I'll jungle for you. I'll jungle for you.
Well, this was a fun segment.
This is a great segment.
I do agree with you. It's sort of weird how like Sammy now has sort of like thinks that they're like friends, but yes, there clearly is this business relationship. Someone's being paid and someone is, gonna keep his belt, right?
Though
But
I will say there is a part of Sammy's character from day one where Sammy just wants to be loved.
that is exactly what I was going to say. Is I think this goes back to sort of Sammy at who he is at his core. Is he's always been that guy who's like, please be friends with me, love me, and that's sort of what it was with Jericho and the Inner Circle, right? And I think that's what it became in the JAS, right, when they were Les Sex Gods. And now that sort of looks like what's going on with MJF, but it doesn't look like it's going to last long.
No, MJF just uses people and throws them away. But yeah, that is the one thing I can at least accept in like the logic here is that Sammy definitely just wants to be liked and loved by not by everyone, but when he decides like you're at a certain level or you're a certain person, it's like, all right, we're gonna be liked and loved. So maybe MJF entered that section of his heart where he just wants to be liked and loved by MJF.
Well, either way, Jesse Ozog said that he said that 10 minutes ago. I did not see that, Jesse. My apologies. But glad that we're all on the same page. See? That's why they pay us the big bucks. All right. So moving on from this Schlong.
Found it.
Oh, hey.
Listen,
that, Jesse.
Listen, Jesse, you sent that during the table discussion, and we were very confused about tables.
We're talking tables. All right, Schlong. After this, we get Adam Cole making his entrance to get on the mic, and he calls out Jericho, saying it's one thing to run his mouth, to jump him and beat him up, but handcuffing him and watching what was orchestrated as a beatdown for Britt Baker is unforgivable, and he'll hurt him badly. So he calls Jericho out again. What's that?
Hold on, I just like Jesse apologizing. Right? Sorry.
Quite all right, Jesse. Just
yeah. How dare you not
with the goddamn
properly put a
conversation.
good comment so that I don't look like a fool stealing your idea? How dare you?
Come on,
right,
Jesse.
now we got that sorted out.
I thought you were a writer. You should know how to stay with the narrative.
It's a Family Guy writer, so writes like just random jokes all the time.
Is he writing Family Guy fan fiction?
That's now what I fanficked in my head.
Oh God, some of those fan fictions are just downright filthy. I don't want to imagine that. Oh, I guess it could be erotic fan fiction, but Anyway, so he calls out Jericho again and he's going to leave to find him, but that's when Judas hits and Jericho appears on the big screen. Not, I saw it. Only the sex kind.
Just want you to see it.
So Jericho laughs off the idea of coming and fighting him because he doesn't want to be near a man who'd let the love of his life get beaten down in front of him. And he says Cole's a coward. He won't come near him, but his guys will. And that's when the JAS appear, coming down the ramp to the ring, and they overwhelm Adam with the numbers game yet again. Well, Orange Cassidy comes out with Bandito, his new best friend, Bandito, to try to make the save.
The bandit.
That's right. They're just two banditos. But soon enough, Bandito and Orange Cassidy get overwhelmed as well. And Schlong, that's when a little song by Killswitch Engage called The End of Heartache plays in the arena. And we see the big screen has a video playing for it. And goddamn, Roderick Strong comes down to the ring to make a save. Backbreakers for everybody. I think he hits some sort of sidewalk slam, or I don't know. He hits a bunch of fucking moves.
Strong.
Ooh, you know what? To be honest, I thought he was a little bit bigger. Looks a little smaller, but still
He's
looks
not
good.
A big guy.
He's never been huge. No. But I thought he maybe looked a little broader sometimes. But I will say this, and Mrs. Money, this is again why we need to do the Many Men of Mrs. Money. Thank you, Sloanamite. Mrs. Money thought it looked good that he was going gray, letting himself go gray. Yes, Gordon Post, he did hit an angle slam. You are correct. So
don't have a choice when we go gray, okay?
No, and that's quite all right. But she said it looked good on him.
It did. I mean, everything looks. He's a good-looking man.
It's true. So now we're left with Roddy Strong and Adam Cole staring at each other from across the ring. And by God, they hug it out. And Schlong, shortly after this happened, it did become official. Roderick Strong is All Elite. So we were talking about this, I think, before we went on the air. I honestly was not aware that Roderick Strong was not under contract, or if he wasn't under contract, that his contract, hadn't been renewed, or there weren't a lot of talks about him. So, this wasn't on my radar.
It was on no one's radar. I can 100% say, as far as anyone thought, he was still with WWE through the end of the year. There was never an announcement of his release. There was never anything, and by any source. There wasn't even like your normally bad news people, like the people who tend to lie. They didn't even fake this story. Like, no one had him out. The irony being, of course, that when he was coming out, his symbol looked like SRS, Sean Ross Sapp. So people are like, what the hell? And Sean Ross Sapp, like, I had no idea. And he was usually pretty on it. So, like, this was a very well kept secret, which is, I think for someone like Roderick Strong makes sense to keep this a secret.
Sure.
He's a lot of, like, I really like Roddy Strong, but by no means is he, he's not Kenny Omega. He's not CM Punk. He's not going to sell out an arena because you announce that he's coming. So the surprise, or even hint that he's arriving, the fact that his surprise matters more than like hinting at it.
Sure.
Because it gives the show that unbelievable feel. I mean, there is a world in which Kyle O'Reilly gets healthy. I really hope he gets healthy soon, just for his own health. I mean, not for wrestling, but and they could, even though he kind of tried to scorch earth on his way out, but they could, in theory, bring back Bobby Fish and have the entire Undisputed Era faction in AEW. Roddy Strong is perfect for AEW, especially that they have ROH. Like you're talking to a guy with a lot of history in ROH, talking to a guy who has a lot of history with all these wrestlers all over,
Mm-hmm.
and he was being wasted in it. He was never going to be called up to the main roster. I just don't think he's a Vince guy. He was kind of being wasted in NXT, so it's kind of like, let's see what he can do. He'll get some. He's apparently taking indie bookings again. Like he's about to have a lot of fun. And I think with this new, like I know people always worry with AEW because AEW has been bad with sometimes bringing in talent and doing nothing with them. I mean, they are not the exception of like people will complain that WWE does it, and they do, but so does AEW. They'll bring in talent they don't use.
Sure.
However, with the rumored 2-hour show that's while it may not be your A show, it's at least it's supposed to be like your B plus show. You're
Mhm.
going to need a much bigger roster. And you're
Sure.
going to actually have to start, and ROH, you're going to actually have to start using these guys for their proper, like use your proper roster. You're going to have to use it all. I think we kept, so I watched, I know Kate has said it, you said it, I've said it. We've kind of hoped that the ROH roster gets delineated. Like, here's your ROH guys, here's your AEW guys. And they haven't yet, and I'm kind of annoyed.
Right.
What I think though is if you're gonna have another 2-hour show, you're not gonna separate the roster until you announce a 2-hour show,
Mm-hmm.
because then at that point you have all your TV lined up, and you go, here's who's going to ROH, here who's staying with AEW. And I think it just makes a lot more sense. So I'm still hopeful, but yeah, there's a lot of TV. They need a guy like Roderick Strong now because he can have a good match with anyone.
Yeah, and to your point too, the first thing that ran through my brain seeing him on TV is the history that's here clearly with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, but the Ring of Honor history, right, and the history with a lot of the other guys on the roster, like they can immediately dip back to that stuff. But I think if they somehow run a this feud with the JAS as Roddy Strong's first sort of foray into AEW, I think that's good. Hopefully if there's any way that Kyle O'Reilly is close to coming back, he can return and sort of jump into this and almost even the numbers, and now this faction's back together. You could have their faction, whatever they're going to call it, go against the Elite once they move on from Blackpool Combat Club. It could sort of, if they get to a point where they can operate like New Japan, you then have all these little factions that can come together as needed, right, for these bigger stories, but you can stand on your own when you don't need to have these sort of faction wars. So, it's definitely, I agree with you too, though. This is a good place for Roddy Strong. I think the style of this company fits him. The history fits him. It's a good fit, and he wasn't going to do anything in the WWE, and they were pretty much tapped out with him on NXT. So,
I agree.
Let's move on, Schlong. We get a QTV segment, and QT Marshall is basically talking about how things haven't been going their way lately, right? Aaron Solo got powerbombed through the stage. They haven't been winning, and Hobbs lost his title. Well, Hobbs storms in and he threatens QT Marshall, but basically QT makes a couple excuses, and he promises Hobbs he'll be a champion again. And Will tells him to fix it. And QT says he has to go to let's go to plan B. And the interesting thing here was that in sort of in Hobbs sort of entrance here, he says things were going well when I was following the book. But then, you came along and everything fell apart, right? So I still like this QTV thing, Schlong. I just don't love the fact that now it's staying with Hobbs. Like, I wish they would hook into people and then let go of them. You know what I mean? Like, it could just be a constant rotating door of like people who are involved in QTV, and then like let them go. Like just like any other sort of gossip show where you're on a celebrity for like a 2-week cycle, and then you sort of like don't even talk about them for another month. You know what I mean?
I'm a huge fan of QTV. But I agree. Let Hobbs walk away from it. I'm with you. They dig into a new. I'm 100% dig into a new storyline every month. However, I'm willing to let this play out a little bit because of what does Hobbs do when QT can't get him the title again? He's going to murder QT, and that's going to be really funny. But QT is just so good at his job.
Oh,
he does
yeah.
not get the credit he deserves for how good he is. So I love QTV, and I want to see more QTV again. Not every week, but regularly. Give me QTV.
Yeah, I'm with you that the inevitable murder of QT Marshall by Will Hobbs will be fantastic. What I sort of hate, Schlong, is that Hobbs has sort of become a guy where he's very good. He's very good. I just hate that he seems to sort of be jumping from faction to faction, right? Like they just won't let him sort of do his own thing because he was with Team Taz and then he was with, whoever, and now he's with QTV. Like, just let him, in my brain, it's like, just let him go out and do his own thing. You know what I mean? Like, he can sort of just be a guy who sort of goes and terrorizes and tries to get belts, right? Like he could really terrorize Orange Cassidy, right? And try to get this international belt, make things tough for him. Like, so I just hate to see them continually bounce him from faction to faction because I think he's a little stronger than that. But we'll see where this goes. We'll see where this goes. All right, Schlong, our second championship match of the night. Jade Cargill versus Taya Valkyrie. We know the stipulation here. Taya Valkyrie cannot use her finishing move. If she hits the oh my god, what does she call it? The Road to Valhalla. Sorry, I was going to say Road to Valkyrie. If she uses the Road to Valhalla, she's going to get disqualified. Early on, she goes for it, but Ref Aubrey's reminding her, no, you can't do that. Can't do that. There's some back and forth, some really cool stuff. Ride to Valhalla. Sorry, I said Road to Valhalla. Thanks, Marky Mark Kayfabe. And then towards the end of the match, she tries to go for the Ride to Valhalla again, forgetting that she can't use it. So they sort of stop her, and Jade Cargill is able to win by pinfall with a schoolboy with a handful of tights to retain her TBS championship. Post-match, Tay is very pissed off. She throws Jade's entourage around, but Jade is able to bail out. She goes for the ride to Valhalla on Aubrey Edwards, but the referees break it up. And yeah, Schlong, I have a big fucking problem with this whole thing. I don't know. All right, now there's some, by the way, there's some chatter. It's Ride to Valhalla, Road to Valhalla, whatever. Something to Valhalla. She didn't fucking hit it, so it doesn't matter. She didn't win the title. We're burying the lead here.
It's carriage trip to Valhalla, and
could it be boat? The cruise ship
that's
to Valhalla.
That's Greek. That's
okay.
Boat on the river. It's
Totally
Styx.
different. Totally different.
So this is Winged Horse to Valhalla.
Ride of the
no,
Valkyries.
This is
Schlong. Before you jump in, I no longer understand what we're trying to accomplish here. I think we all thought at one point Athena was the one to take it off her. It would have been the right time, the right place. Didn't happen. So we stuck with it, and we were wondering who's going to be the person. And it wasn't going to be Chris Stat, right? Because she had the knee problem, and it's going to be a while till she comes back. Okay. So now you bring in Taya Valkyrie, one of the bigger names on the open market, besides, Money Monet. And she comes in, you're setting it up. It's the perfect fucking time to do it. She's 55-0. what better time to go 55-1? And it's a person who can take it off her because she's experienced, and she can take it off her, and it won't make Jade look bad. And they don't take it off Jade. I don't know what the fuck is happening anymore. Who's left? Chris Stack can't be that close to coming back and ripping it off her. I just don't. Are they going to run it back at Double or Nothing and Tay's going to magically win? Like, stupid to me. That is stupid.
No. I'm not going to argue the stupidity of all this. This was the low point.
By the way, nobody ever says, thank you, Sloanamite. Thank you. Thank you.
Hallelujah.
Thank
you. Is preaching.
I will preach. Sorry.
I wanted to do a Southern accent on that, but I just don't have a good Southern accent. So that was my Southern preacher.
That's all right. It sounded good.
So here's the thing. I agree this was stupid. I can't even begin to defend it. It was as dumb as it's not so much. I get because it's just that this title reign has gotten boring. It's the same issue I have with Roman Reigns' title reign over WWE. It's the same issue I have at any time someone has been a top champion for so long, and not only have they been a champion for so long, but they've run out of all their good opponents. There's just no story anymore. No one cares. We're seeing the same thing over and over again. You're not getting me invested at all. Like, I don't get invested in any challenger. I don't get invested in any story because I just assume Jade's going to win. I will say I do think Taya still takes it off her because of the way they ended the match, which was Taya went for her move, went for the road, and realized, oh shit, I can't do this. And then got caught in a weird roll up. Jade was supposed to grab the tights because you could hear commentary say she grabbed the tights. She didn't really grab the tights, but she was trying to. It was supposed to be a cheap, cheaty win, which qualifies Taya to have a rematch because Taya had Jay's number, and then Taya beats her in the straight-up rematch. That's where I think they're going with this.
I just think it's so stupid. Just rip the Band-Aid off. Just get the belt off her. We don't have to have this back and forth between them. This was the time. This
only hurts Jade.
I just don't listen. The Canadian Destroyer she hit tonight looked great. The superplex off the top rope looked great. Jade looked pretty good tonight, and I think again it's one of these things we're seeing where it's like Jade looks good when the talent in the ring is experienced and she can kind of go toe to toe and somebody can lead her along. Jade hasn't looked good in matches with like Sky Blue, who
Marina Shafir.
Right, who's not as experienced because she can't carry them and they can't sort of guide her to the right places. Like, I get that, but I don't know what we're trying to accomplish anymore. Like, Jade is a star for what they're trying to do. She's got a great look. They've made her look strong. She's gotten to her 50 wins. Just this is the time to take it off her. I don't need a rematch with the claws gone. It doesn't make sense. This was the night. You didn't do it with Athena. You fucked that up. This was the night. It didn't happen. I feel like you fucked it up and nobody's going to care about a rematch because then the writing's on the wall for sure.
No one cared about this match. And no one cared about this match because a lot of people kind of just, like, as much as we thought Tay was the one, I think most people had that seed of doubt in their brain of being like, she probably won't win. And like, people are growing bored. It's doing no favors to Jade because her character has grown stale. Let her free her of the streak, free her of the belt. Let her grow as a character. And it'll be better for her. It'll be better for the women's division. It'll be better for everyone. It's not her fault that she's getting stuck with this boring run. She would have been better off losing it and winning it again at some point. And being like,
the build back up.
It's just that, like, and part of it is the builds they give her too, in fairness. They never give great builds for this. This is one of the better builds they've given, and it wasn't a great build. Like, they need to, like, The truth is, if this was happening at win 40, I would feel a lot differently. That's 16 wins ago. Because I would view this as a different story. I'd view this as like, oh man, Jade's starting to have to cheat and Taya's got her number. She's going to be coming back. Now it's like, all right, just go to whoever you're going to have lose to her next.
The bottom line here, Schlong, is if they do a rematch, they got to take this belt off her because there's nobody left. If they're hoping it's going to be Mercedes, that's not guaranteed. If they want it to be, the Martian, God, I'm losing all the names tonight. They're going straight out of my brain. If they want it to be Chris Stat, I don't know what her status is, but like you can't wait around forever.
Unless she's back for the pay-per-view in May. You can't keep waiting for that.
Dude, I honestly thought maybe tonight they take the belt off Jade, Taya wins, and then maybe we see Chris Stat reemerge. Not to attack or anything, but just be like, hey, that's mine. I was coming for it. And maybe we get something like that because that also wouldn't hurt Taya. You know what I mean? Like if Taya took the belt off Jade and then Chris Stat reemerges and they give the belt to Chris Stat and sort of Taya's transitional, like that's fine. And then you can have a Jade, Chris Stat sort of feud. But like, I just don't know what the fuck we're trying to do anymore. It's really annoying. I just don't get it. I don't get it. There's nobody left. You have to pull the trigger somewhere and get this belt off her. And if they do this rematch at the pay-per-view, that's got to be the time. There's no other way to do it. Like, it's got to be the time. You got to get this fucking belt off her. I will get off my soapbox now. That just really fucking bothered me tonight. This was the time. This was the time to me. I don't think you wait for the pay-per-view. Anyway, let's move on.
You're right. I can't add any more because you're right on everything you just said.
It got me white hot, Schlong. Got me white hot.
It's boring.
So we do get a Jamie Hayter DMD promo on the Outcasts. They say that they're decent human beings, but they have a reason not to be. And Jamie calls them sneaky and says this is far from over. So we're still got this thing going on. There was a Bullet Club Gold promo about their match on Rampage this week. They're going to have Jay and Juice versus Ricky Starks and Sean Spears. So that should be a fun match. And then they build up the rest of the cards, but eventually, as we're going into the main event, the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson's in the building. He comes out to join commentary for the main event. When we get back from the break, we get the Butcher and the Blade versus Kenny Omega and Takeshita. So Takeshita clearly helped them last week, with the help of Don Callis, the Elite from Kenny from getting attacked. So there's still this thing with the Blackpool Combat Club. This was an entertaining match, Schlong. It was great to see the Butcher and the Blade in this spot working with Takeshita, who they clearly think very highly of, putting him, on a team with Kenny Omega. There's also some history, I think, with them in Japan, so it all works out. But Kenny and Takeshita do win by pinfall with the power drive knee from Takeshita on the Butcher. So also looks pretty strong from Takeshita taking out the Butcher, the bigger of the two on the other team. I think I just said it, but I'm also very happy to see the Butcher and the Blade across the ring from these two high profile, talents. So I love that. And after the match, Danielson gets on the mic and says he sees one professional in the ring who just got the pin and one amateur who's clearly exhausted and whose best days are behind him, living on the legacy that he built over in Japan. But he says that if Takeshita trained with the BCC, he'd be a world beater. But if he trains with the Elite, he'd be like Nakazawa or Brandon Cutler, washing them in the showers. That's when the rest of the BCC hit the ring from behind to beat down Kenny Omega. And Brian says that last week they started something, and this week they're going to end it. And he's got the screwdriver Schlong as he comes down to the ring. He gives it to Mox, but the Bucks make their save. They super kick Claudio and Yuta, and Omega hits a dragon suplex on Moxley. Bucks hit the ring, and super kick party connects on Mox. And Danielson gets Takeshita up on his feet outside of the ring and basically is talking to him to get him to stop what's going to happen in the ring, because now Omega has the screwdriver and the Bucks are holding Moxley. So Takeshita gets in the ring, gets between Mox and Omega, and now the Blackpool Combat Club pulls up and gets the Bucks out of the ring. Mox then shoves Takeshita into Omega, he's able to hit the paradigm shift on. And that's when Danielson and Castagnoli raise Takeshita's hands, but he's really not having this. And that's when Danielson gets on the mic to tell him what he's, to say, think about what you're doing right now. And says that if he wants to be with the BCC, this is the time. Well, he doesn't really have an answer, so Wheeler gives him a low blow from behind. Moxley spikes, and Danielson hands the screwdriver to Moxley. That's when Moxley spikes Takeshita numerous times with the screwdriver. We see blood pouring out of Takeshita's head as the BCC leave the ring, and the show goes off the air. So Schlong, a little again, will they, won't they sort of thing going on. Where does Takeshita sort of fit into this picture? He sort of is trying to keep the peace between everybody. Maybe he doesn't want Kenny to sort of cross that threshold into playing their games. But the BCC are still trying to court him, or maybe they're not, and they just wanted to make him think they are. I didn't mind the match. The post-match was interesting, although I just don't know where we're going with Takeshita. He seems to be sort of the middleman in all this. Either way, the Elite clearly need to even up the odds. And if Takeshita's part of that, they all need to be on the same page. They clearly don't seem to be on the same page. So Schlong, what did you think about all this and how they went off the air?
Okay, so a couple things here. Match was really good. I like Butcher and Blade a lot, like you. They deserve a run at some point because they are they're extremely talented. And I don't think they get the credit they're due for how well they performed in AEW for as long as they've had. So the match was a really good, short match because didn't have a lot of time, and they wanted to do all that after stuff. The after stuff, I think Takesh just going the BCC. I think this is a very, he goes in and he stops, which you can claim would be because he's a good guy and he doesn't want to see the good guys use the screwdriver. But no. He goes in, he stops it, he gets hit, whatever, and then he gets hit with the screwdriver. But notice they don't go for the eye. They very purposely only go for the forehead. And he bleeds. And one of the things with the Blackpool Combat Club is you got to bleed with him. I know he had technically bled with him earlier, but they'll forget that, and this is this initiation. So I think this is his initiation into the Blackpool Combat Club. I think he's BCC. Ooh, so then what? Well, I think there's a former lover of Kenny Omega. No, he's
we
not
will talk
of Kenny Omega lover.
We will certainly talk about that.
Even the sides. But yeah, I liked all this. I liked what they're doing with Takeshita. Takeshita seems like such a big deal now because of this story. But that being said, I think this is him joining the BCC.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Either way, I think, like you said, the whole bleed with us thing and blah, 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 jumping him into the crew could be sort of what's going on here. If he doesn't go with them, then it's certainly something that maybe they're going to use to say, you've got to take this, we've got to take this to a different level, and sort of like, he didn't want there to be that violence, right? So now he's got to, get violent, right? And they've got to get more violent, and they've got to play on the level of the BCC. Either way, the story's intriguing. And we'll sort of see how it goes. Now, that was the show, so we're going to get into some news and notes, and this is going to go sort of directly into this main event, Schlong, because I think I said the same thing last week. Is I honestly thought that that last week we may see somebody else enter the picture. Not Takeshita. I thought we were going to get possible appearance from Ibushi, like you said, former Golden Lover with Kenny Omega. Now,
I think that's still possible.
Now, it broke Wednesday morning, but we didn't really. I didn't see it until much later. But according to Twitter handle or the Twitter user Dark Dark Purorisu Flosion. I don't know what the fuck that is, but it made the rounds, and it said, Kota Ibushi told me him and Kenny Omega have been talking recently and hopes to talk with Tony soon. The quote from Ibushi was, recently, Kenny and I have been talking about things other than games. For example, are your knees okay? Or is your shoulder okay? Also, I hope to be in contact with Tony soon. The same person on Twitter, the same group on Twitter says, the list of opponents Kota Ibushi, this was in a December post, the list of opponents Kota Ibushi has told me he wants to fight, team up, or work with again is as follows. Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, the Young Bucks, Will Ospreay, Takeshita, and then also Roman Reigns, Shinsuke Nakamura, Finn Balor, Sami Zayn, and AJ Styles. So it is a mixed group, but there are a bunch of names with things going on right now in the world of AEW, with New Japan Forbidden Door coming up, and with all the things that have been reported that Ibushi wants to do and wants to have the flexibility to accomplish. As much as the E has sort of wanted him, it doesn't seem like the fit is there, right? Like the rumors were that he wants to have his wrestling school. That's not necessarily historically been something that the E is willing to let people do. He seems to, I think, want some flexibility in his schedule, maybe to be able to work in other places. Like clearly Will Ospreay is not with AEW. He's with New Japan or in AEW. So yeah, Schlong, I'm sort of with you. I think there is a chance that we can see, this reunited Golden Lovers happen. I think it's all got to break the right way, but Ibushi showing up and re-teaming with Kenny Omega and the Bucks would be huge.
Oh, I thought you had something. Yes, that'd be. I thought you had a statement. I was waiting for it. Yes, no, that'd be amazing. It's what I'm hoping for. There's a bunch of fake, I don't want to say fake. People are looking for Easter eggs and BTE, where Kenny's always texting someone when they're on the camera. Now they're feeding this story. So I'm not gonna be upset if he doesn't, because again, they haven't even hinted at it in AEW. They've done nothing on their end. But it would just be so awesome if he shows up.
It would be big, and I think that most of the talent that he'd probably work best with would be in AEW. But honestly, I mean, he knows some of these other guys in the E that have worked in some of these other companies that he could have really great matches with too. So, we'll see what happens with Ibushi. He's still hanging out there. Right. And we'll see who's able to land him. He's a pretty big name out there on the world stage. So we will see. Schlong, and some other news and notes. Goldberg is looking to do some international touring to wrap up his in-ring career. Wardlow is one of the rising stars in the world of AEW, who a lot of people often say reminds them of Goldberg minus the streak, right? So What a Culture's Simon Miller was able to chat with Wardlow at WrestleCon shortly after Goldberg walked by Wardlow's booth, allegedly, pointed at Wardlow and said, "You're next." And the quote was, "Well, I actually pointed at him and I said, 'Bet your ass I'm next.' Yeah, you guys just missed it. Goldberg did walk through just a minute ago and we exchanged words." Wardlow says, "Don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but we both mutually agreed that if the opportunity comes, we would love to see who really is next." Yeah, if you could have Batista, Lesnar, Goldberg, I put those three in the same category of like dream monster matches. Goldberg is, we just heard Wardlow. We haven't heard that chant since Goldberg. I think Wardlow versus Goldberg, it doesn't get bigger than that. It does not get bigger than Wardlow versus Goldberg. And he says, if it does come down to Wardlow is the man to retire Goldberg, I can die peacefully. Schlong, just throwing this out there because I don't think that's going to happen. But if you could get Wardlow versus Goldberg, does that match intrigue you?
No.
You mean you don't want to see Wardlow get his head kicked into the third row of the seats like Bret Hart?
No. I don't need to see Goldberg blown up before he gets to the ring.
All right. I mean, I don't have anything to add. Let's see what else we have. So Schlong, in October of 2021, AAA announced Kenny Omega was going to defend the Mega Championship against El Hijo del Vikingo at Triple Mania 2. But it never happened because injuries caught up with Omega and that, he had to have numerous surgeries and take a lot of time off. So he had to vacate that AAA title, and Vikingo won the belt in a 5-way match at the event where he'd originally been scheduled to challenge Omega. So it looks like that match is finally going to happen. It looks like that the second of this year's Triple Mania 31 events, July 15th in Tijuana, will have Vikingo versus Kenny Omega for the championship. We'll see how that goes, but it will apparently be on Fight TV in the US. So, Schlong, that match should rule.
Yeah, that match is gonna be insane. I'm very excited for that.
So, if you've never seen AAA or any of the Triple Mania stuff, you should definitely try to check it out. It is a very different wrestling show. Not in a bad way, but it is definitely different. Like, Schlong, I remember watching it a couple times, and they pull all the way out to show when the ads are changing on the screen. Like, it's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. Schlong, something else that was making the news this week, sort of was in the world of AEW and WWE. So, for those who maybe don't know, is apparently CM Punk showed up backstage this week at Raw. And nobody really had any idea that was happening. So there was a report from PW Insider that maybe had some answers from some sources from Mike Johnson that you can sort of throw into whatever you're thinking. So he said Punk was in Florida last week for his regular side gig as color commentator for MMA promotion called Cage Fury Fighting Championships, which has a show in Tampa, had a show in Tampa last Thursday, April 20th. And he was flying home to Chicago, and several Raw-bound talent and staff who live in Florida were on the flight. From them, he learned Raw was at Rosemont, Illinois' Allstate Arena, which PW Insider says is near where he lives in Chicago. So Punk stopped by the arena before the show started and was brought into the building by other talents. They said inside, Punk went behind a closed door or had a secret meeting, or he never, went behind closed doors or had secret meetings with anyone. He was in a common area where anyone who walked by could see him. He met briefly with Paul Levesque or Triple H. And their exchange was 1 or 2 minutes long. They shook hands. Punk asked if it was okay he was there, and if they could talk if the chief content officer had time. Triple H said that he needed to check with the big guy, meaning Vince McMahon, and Punk stayed in the same location and talked to some other talents who came by. That's when he spoke to The Miz, and they apparently cleared the air from the time when Punk was sort of working on WWE backstage. Other people, the report says, who saw Punk greeted him warmly. Some WTF reactions came from people who heard he was there, but didn't actually see or interact with him. And after about 20 minutes, security asked Punk to leave. He said goodbyes and left. That and all of the exchanges were said to be respectful. Sources differed on why he was asked to leave. One said that it was because Punk is under contract to AEW, so clearly that's not a thing that can happen. Another one pointed out that that wasn't an issue with having folks like Malachi Black and Andrade attend WWE Hall of Fame ceremony earlier this month, and they said maybe the history between Punk and the company, particularly the legal history, was why he was asked to leave. There was some speculation that was shot down that this was Punk seeing if the WWE would bring him back, saying that he's under contract to AEW for a lengthy amount of time still, and that he also Johnson dismissed the idea that this was a publicity stunt on either Punk or AEW's part, and AEW and WWE people were shocked that Punk was there and even questioned whether the reports were fake or some sort of work. So all of that's interesting. And Johnson closed sort of his report by saying, so it just happened that Punk was at home in Chicago on the same day Raw was within minutes of his home, and apparently said hell with it and went over for a visit. From all we have spoken to, it just happened to be the timing that led to Punk going there on a whim. So, Schlong, there has been a ton of talk clearly about this Saturday show revolving around CM Punk, with apparently rumors that Warner Brothers Discovery wants CM Punk to be the flagship sort of person or talent on that show. Punk is clearly a guy who knows how to work sort of wrestling media and his socials. I personally didn't read into any of this, and honestly, I thought at first it was all sort of fake news, but apparently it's not. Any take you have on this? Does this stuff get you going in any way, or do you just really not care?
I don't care. I think he knew what he was doing, but I just think that's him playing games to get attention. I think even Tony Khan might have known. I'd be like, sure, all at this point, it's not bad press for us, so go for it. I honestly just don't care.
Schlong, we've talked about it. Clearly our other co-host wants to see CM Punk back badly. Personally, I don't need it, Schlong. I don't need him back. I don't yearn for him to be back. Would it be big if he came back and everything was sort of settled and he was cool? Yeah, I guess. But it doesn't, for me at this point, it doesn't move the needle anymore. You know what I mean? If he comes back, he comes back. If not, I'll go on living my life. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So that's some news on that. And then Schlong, this is something that maybe is of interest to you. But the latest episode of Dark Elevation that was uploaded to YouTube was a best of edition. Tony Schiavone and Excalibur didn't mention why we were getting a clip show, but opening remarks about the show as a launching pad for homegrown talent raised a few eyebrows. And Their remarks are being reevaluated after fans who watch Elevation on Fight TV noticed the description for episode 112. It says, "Don't miss this special and final episode of Elevation. It's best of Elevation airing on Fight. The episode is throwing it back to some of the best matches that have graced our Monday nights over the years." So AEW hasn't officially said anything about Elevation's future, but we've been sort of thinking if they're going to put on another Saturday night show, right, a 2-hour televised program, doing away with one of these or these YouTube shows sort of made sense, right? And I think for Elevation to end makes sense, right? Because when they started it during the pandemic, it was a way for them to showcase indie talent and get them some screen time as well as their own talent. So if this is truly the end of Elevation, Schlong, and we're basically just down to dark, it's not a bad thing, especially
will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your heart pass by.
Does it upset?
Not
Okay.
for the memories. Listen, my heart is broken. I don't even know what I'll do on Mondays anymore.
Well, you won't have to live tweet anything on Mondays.
I know, which is probably better. It'll give me more energy for when I do it on Tuesday, so I could live tweet better because I've been slacking. And I'll still watch the Wizards because I've been doing that on Mondays anyway. But it I can already feel the hole in my heart where Elevation once was.
Well, the other interesting thing too is that if they're taping, so they did announce that they're doing some Ring of Honor tapings at the soundstage, right, in Universal, but they are still taping it at some of their live events too. So where, you know what I mean? Like it logistically too, just thinking about it, where would you tape Dark and Dark Elevation and Ring of Honor? You know what I mean? If you don't have the soundstage always sort of readily available, you know what I mean? For something. So it makes sense logistically to have to cut something.
If they take regular Dark from me, there will be blood.
I don't think they would cut Dark. I think you still need to have one show like that, right? Where you have sort of indie talent or like people who they sort of have on this appearance sort of deal.
It makes like they get 100 and something thousand views a week on it. It would be stupid to get rid of it. But again, why? And no warning? You don't even give me proper time to process this. You just do this.
Well, again, this is all speculation because it was
Aiden's saying they didn't. He was there tonight and saying they did not. They did not tape Rampage. They did not tape Elevation night. They usually tape it at the live shows, and he was there.
Well, I know that like because of some of the live rampages we've gone to and some other shows in the past, like when they were doing the live rampages at the end of last year and early this year that me and Mrs. Money went to, they taped a whole bunch of Dark stuff, which they then cut up into Dark and Dark Elevation. You know what I mean? So like, who knows? Maybe they taped a bunch of stuff, Schlong, and they just didn't need to tape it this week, but they needed to tape some Ring of Honor. But it is odd that on Fight TV, that would be the description. But it's just weird that they wouldn't make an announcement. You know what I mean? Like a firm announcement, like, hey, the whole purpose of Elevation was to showcase, indie talent during the pandemic because they didn't have a way, to work. And we wanted to make sure that we were doing good for wrestling. Right. Now it's just not something that is needed. Right. It's just weird that they would maybe quietly send it off, into the sunset. But I'm sorry, Schlong. Two bad things for you tonight: the possible end of Dark Elevation and RJ City getting attacked, and Marky Mark Kayfabe turning heel on you.
We'll remember you. Listen, I can't process this. I need time.
Well, it's been a big night. Schlong, I think you might have turned me on this Dynamite being a good show.
Told you. There was one bad match, one questionable decision after a good match, but that's all. The rest was very good.
I honestly think that the crowd was just dead and maybe affected what I thought about the show.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can agree with that.
Well, here's what I can tell you, Schlong. Next week we're going to be back. I won't be affected because I'll be back here with you and hopefully Kate next week. So for now, why don't we tell the people where you'll be? Maybe on Mondays, but definitely on Tuesdays.
You can find me on Tuesdays, just Tuesdays now.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure just Tuesdays. Live tweeting Dark. You used to be able to find me on Mondays live tweeting Dark Elevation, but now it's just Tuesdays Dark. And the rest of the week you can find me at Mark Order Pod. Just interact with me. Don't be a jerk.
Schlong, what do your Thursdays look like?
I watch ROH.
You could fill the gap. You could fill the void.
It's not the same, my man.
I know it's not.
I started with this. How many years? It's why I'm here. And they just ripped that out. They ripped it away from me.
Well, I mean, Schlong, if you would like next week, I'm not giving you homework to do, but if you would like next week, if it does turn out that there is no Elevation next week, if you'd like to come to our Wednesday night show and give a retrospective on Elevation, maybe a eulogy.
As long as I will remember. That just has to play the whole thing. Because you know what? Yes, I'm going to eulogize Elevation next week if it's not on Monday. I agree with that. I accept that. I'm doing it.
Okay. Hey, and as I said, we're working on, and again, I mean, I have to give some sort of royalties to Sloanamite. We're working on some possible bonus content. The Many Men of Mrs. Money. Or maybe we even expand that a little bit. The Many Men of AEW, or the Many Men in AEW of Mrs. Money, whatever.
The Many AEW Men of Mrs. Money.
Wow, that is a mouthful, but I like it. We're working on the possibility of that. We'll keep you posted, but I like the idea of that. She liked the idea of that. So we would do some bonus content and throw it up after the fact. But let us know if that is something that sounds like a good idea for those people who maybe didn't catch it live or didn't hear that part of the show. If you'd be into the idea of some bonus content where Mrs. Money, I would go through the current AEW roster with Mrs. Money, where she would talk about who she's into and who she's not into and put them sort of into her different boyfriend ranks. It's something we're kicking around doing. We also do other bonus shows here on this show when they have like sort of their Battle of the Belts or Ring of Honor, pay-per-views and stuff like that, or even pay-per-views here. So we definitely have that, and we're here every Wednesday. So make sure you come back and check us out next week. As Schlong said, find us on our socials. Follow him on Twitter at MarkOrderPod. Follow us on Instagram, on TikTok. That's something else, Schlong. I think we might need to find a Mark who wants to cut up some video snippets for us so we can throw those on our socials to spice things up a little bit. Because
I'm not a good TikToker. I gotta figure out if I got that TikTok gene in me.
It's not even like being good at TikTok. It's just like snipping out pieces of this show that we think would be good, wrestling related or not, that can get some people's attention.
So it's not me going on TikTok and just saying tick tock on the clock and the party don't stop tonight. No, not a Kesha guy.
I'm not into Kesha. Sorry, Schlong. I know you gave me the face. Sloanamite, we can work something out. We can work out a deal for the name. Trust me. That's a big one. I know you're saying name for a t-shirt. That might be able to happen. So anyway, follow us on our socials at Mark Order Pod. If you honestly, Schlong, I'm gonna throw it out there. If you want to be an intern for us and cut up some snippets of this show, get in touch with me. Get in touch with me. DM me at AntMoney and we'll talk about it. But follow at Mark Order Pod, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. All of those accounts have our a link tree in our profile, and you could find all of our links where you can listen to us on podcast form, all our socials. If you want to support us for free, you can request free stickers. Give us your full name, your full mailing address, the country you live in. Drop us your email too, in case I have any questions about your address, and we'll send you out some free Mark Order Podcast stickers. We ship them all over the world. Schlong, I just sent some to Austria for Kratzo. I sent some to Canada for SJ. So we'll send them anywhere in the world. So request those stickers for free, and we will get them out to you. If you'd like to support us monetarily, head over to our Pro Wrestling Tee store. We have a link right in our link tree where you can get over to our Pro Wrestling Tee store, or you can go to prowrestlingtees.com/MarkOrderPod, or just go to Pro Wrestling Tees and search for the Mark Order Podcast. And our store will pop right up. We've got 4 shirts for sale, 2 front prints, 2 double prints. So anything you buy from us there helps us put money back into the show to be able to keep doing stuff for y'all. Beyond that, we want to thank everybody for watching along with us tonight, for checking in. Caden jumping in late, Marky Mark going heel on Schlong, Jesse Ozog, Sloanamite for coming up with a great name. Asian Joe was in early, Gordon Post checking in, Ricardo. Let's see. Sorry, scrolling. I'm sure I'm forgetting a ton of people. Pedro. I think I hit mostly everybody. Brendan was checking us out. So thank you for checking us out. If you are listening in podcast form, we appreciate you checking us out. Anybody who's watching on YouTube or listening in podcast form, if you give us a subscribe, a like, a rate, review, that helps us completely on all those platforms, wherever you listen, or if you're watching us on YouTube. So if you could take a few moments to just do those things, it really helps us out. You might think it doesn't, but it really does. And if you've never tried watching us in video form, go over to the YouTube and check out our YouTube page. Who knows? Will Schlong, when he does his eulogy next week, be at a grave site, perhaps in funeral attire? We'll see. I'm not saying you have to be Schlong, but who knows? Schlong has been known to show up in proper attire. He's shown up for Cowboy Day in his cowboy hat with his bandana. We've had guests pop in like Rate the Great, like the Captain, like a Concerned Citizen. We've seen Matt take off his shirt. We've heard Matt's cats get into a blood-curdling fight. Watching us in video form is hilarious. So all of that lives on YouTube. So check us out if you want. Other than that, you just find me here on the Mark Order Podcast Wednesdays at 10:15 after Dynamite goes off the air. Schlong, do you have something to say? It looks like you're grinning, or are you just thinking of?
No,
okay.
I'm thinking of something, but we're not nothing.
Then we will talk about it after we go off the air behind closed doors. We don't have to work out everything on the air, but certainly we have a few things. So as we said tonight, for those who didn't hear it earlier, we usually put polls up, or we're going to start putting polls up on our Spotify. So be sure to check out whatever polls we have in the episode. Even if you're not listening in podcast form, check it out. We're going to try to put some polls up there just to see what people are thinking. leave us comments on what you think about the shows, what works, what doesn't work. We see it all. So let us know. Interact with us on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. I'm rambling now. Let's get out of here. What do you say, Schlong? We've got some
Good night.
We got some back end work to do. We'll see you all next week. And thanks for listening. We are part of the Shining Wizards Network. We will see you all next week.
This concludes the Mark Order podcast. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Join the Mark Order.